Call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. Try it for only $19.95. While we can't stop aging, not yet, we can stop pain. Turn back the clock with Relief Factor.
The Morning Extra, only on Extra 106.3.
Morning, y'all. Happy Monday to you. Tug, Rhino, and Lowe's until 10 on the Morning Extra. 404-741-1230 is the number. And at Extra 106.3 across the social media platforms. Easy to reach out. You can listen to us on the app or watch us on the Extra 106.3 YouTube channel. So no reason to give me any excuses about not being involved or not paying attention to the show. So we appreciate you for doing that. Front Office Lowe's, good morning.
Good morning, Tug. I trust you had an outstanding weekend. I trust you were able to recover from all the things that you had you did to yourself at the end of last week.
Yeah. I think pretty much. Friday night.
He's back, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's go back. So Friday night went and saw a little local band play. It was fun. Sixpence None the Richer was the headline. There's a couple of local acts that opened them.
Did they play Kiss Me like 4 times?
No, they saved it till probably 3/4 into the set.
Look at Joe. Joe's smiling. He's like, "It's one of my favorites."
Yeah, it is.
Love
Kiss
it so much.
me.
Yeah. Is it that one?
Yeah.
Bearded barley. No, it's
Yeah,
so
he
good.
knows.
They're, they were like a contemporary Christian band that kind of just
kind of made
drifted into the
mainstream. Yeah.
And the only other hits they had were covers of The Laws from the 80s, There She Goes, and then Crowded House, Don't Dream It's Over.
I do like the There She Goes.
Yeah, they did a great job of it, yeah. So, and it's the original.
You know how I know I'm gay?
Lineup since 25 years. What? How do I know? Yeah.
Because I like Sixpence None the Richer.
No, that doesn't matter.
Kiss
They're
Me
sweet. They're a sweet little band. I like them.
No, I know. I would go see them.
Yeah, me too.
Why are you gay?
Well,
Because this is what I'm into, apparently.
What do you want from us?
I want to hear There She Goes at some point today.
Come on. Let's go. We can break that out. You can break out the Laws version or Sixpence.
No, Sixpence.
So we did that. So Alfredo does this wood and wire or wire and wood. I always get the title flipped inside and out. And but it's every year, and it's just like every corner of downtown has a different stage, and it's like a singer-songwriter festival. It's so cool. And it was freaking packed, man. There were so many people down there Friday night, and then Saturday. We didn't go Saturday night, but it was Saturday night too.
See, this is where you were wrong last week when the weather changed, and you were upset.
Yes.
But it is now the perfect time to get outside and live music, and whether it's a beer fest or a wine fest or anything else, it was outstanding this weekend to be outside.
Yeah, and then Saturday night we went to Peeps' house up to the farm and petted the goats and played with the chickens. One chicken, his name is Kevin, he has no feathers. Apparently it's
like a hybrid chicken?
No, it's apparently this. I mean, it's a whatever type of chicken, and she explained it, and I can't remember. But it does once it starts losing its feathers. It don't really have. I mean, it looks it looks like somebody whipped its ass.
Does it look sickly?
Yes, it does. But it's not. It's completely healthy. It's just they just lose their feathers and they just don't grow back.
Do you think that maybe this helps in not harvesting Kevin?
I don't know.
You just keep Kevin around because he's that oddity.
Maybe. Well, look, that's at least for them. That's definitely what it is. But he's always so strange because, I mean, he just looks like a cat, was trying to eat him. And he, barely got away by the hair of his chinny chin and now is just, roaming the backyard.
See, this is how he recharges over the weekend.
Yeah, it is. I love seeing him.
I think I watched about 12 hours of college football on Saturday.
I did too. And then halftime was when I went out because we were watching up Peeps' house.
I got noon kickoffs.
Yeah.
And by the time it was over with the Ohio State-Oregon game, I think that was about 11-something.
I went to bed before that was over. I did not know who won until the end, until the next morning.
Great finish. Good for Dan Lanning with the head coach over at Oregon, former defensive coordinator.
We miss him in Athens.
He's good. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
But then to try and watch the late-night games, the Boise States and everything, I woke up, I think, at 2:30 in the morning because I fell asleep. It was like Oregon wins. I was up for like 10 minutes, and then I dozed off, woke up 2 hours later, and was like, oh, I got to go to bed.
I've got to...
that was my recharge.
I got to retire. But, and then we had, we're doing that construction project in the house where they're remodeling bathrooms. They finally are making some progress there, which is good. It's been frustrating up until this point. If you've ever dealt with contractors, you probably already know that.
Good luck to you.
I wish Southern Exteriors would do Southern Interiors and be able to do some of that stuff.
It's the next phase of their growth.
Gosh, I hope so.
Come help you.
At some point. At some point, they've got to, because this may go south at any point. But other than that, man, yeah, it was a super, super weekend, and I'm just recharged and ready to go. Although, since you brought up football, Alabama did not look good against South Carolina. South Carolina had every opportunity to win that game and shot themselves in the foot. Like, they would get a break, and then they're, oh, here's a foot, let's shoot it. You know, that's pretty much the Shane Beamer way, it seems.
It was a multitude of opportunities. They had a 50-yard kick that they missed badly. They had an opportunity to tie it with a 2-point conversion at the end. They then recovered the onside kick, which never happened, and then couldn't move the football through the interception. Again, that was the noon kickoffs. Mm-hmm. So I knew once I got that, I was going to be rolling for the rest of the day.
Yeah, and then Georgia looked really sloppy.
Defensively sloppy.
Yeah, which is exactly.
Yeah, offensively, they're throwing the ball over creation.
Yeah, holy cow! What was Beck broke his own record
for yardage? Yeah,
and is now in like the top 5 in like history. I saw the list of the top 5 quarterbacks with the most yards per game, and his name is up there with like some of the the greatest quarterbacks that we've seen ever in college.
I remember when I posted the initial vault. We do that over on our sister station, and the numbers I put up for Beck had one person at the station who was like, that means he's going to average like 250 yards a game. Nobody does that at Georgia. He's going about double that.
Yeah, exactly. And these days they do.
Because he's a top 3 pick in the draft.
Yeah, and but it's weird to see Georgia's defense, which is good. Just I don't know that I'd call it as good or as great as it has been. They've struggled there a little bit, and which is unusual because that's what Georgia is, right? A defensive powerhouse. But that's their calling card.
Typically, it's run the football, play crazy defense. This year, it's
throw the ball all around the yard.
Yeah, that's what it's turned into.
And score.
Big game at Texas. Texas opened as a 3-point favorite.
Yeah, I don't.
So this will be a really good game in Austin this weekend.
I don't feel good about it, Lowe's. How do you feel about it?
We'll see.
Exactly. Because Texas looked real good.
They're in trouble.
But Texas was playing an Oklahoma team that essentially was playing without a quarterback.
Right. I didn't know that.
Freshman quarterback who was not able to do a whole lot of stuff, and eventually the dam breaks, and they just end up destroying Oklahoma. So we'll see. Night game in Austin. I'll just tell you, growing up 45 minutes from that campus, going to games on a regular basis, Texas finds a way to disappoint you on a regular basis. It's what they do. So we'll see.
Up until about 5-6 years ago, Georgia had that same quality. And being a lifelong Georgia fan,
it's interesting how you can draw similar lines between the two. Because remember, for as much as Texas wins a national championship in 2005, their previous one had been almost 40 years before. Mm-hmm. So it's like, it's Texas. Yeah, well, it wasn't Texas for about 40 years.
Yeah, it seems to be Texas right now, though.
Yeah, they're doing well.
They look good. They look good. And I don't feel good about this weekend. So
you're going to be okay, buddy.
Yeah. My dear wife's calling me right in the middle of this.
Wow,
this
that's different.
Be good.
You want to take it on the air?
I think I'm going to hold off on that. Maybe shoot her a text. Be like, is everything okay?
That's just see how that goes. Maybe she's just getting word that there was a third attempt on Trump's life. Or was there?
Yeah, right.
What a weird story.
So strange, dude. Like, this dude shows up with high-powered rifles and magazines with,
he's got a small arsenal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
it's not like I left my pistol in the car.
No.
From what the local authorities are talking about, and this is the Coachella appearance over the weekend, apparently this guy, and, the name is out there, and it's Vem Miller. He's a near 50-year-old man who has been involved in Republican politics over the last several years.
Yeah.
And showed up to this appearance.
Fake press credentials.
That's the part that makes this weird for me, that he had credentials that the authorities are saying the VIP credentials and the press credentials were not authentic.
Yeah. Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco. I truly do believe we prevented another assassination attempt. Well, there's so many. I guess we're going to have to wait to see, everything, to get all the information, which I don't know that we ever will. That's part of the problem.
Well, first off, we didn't find this out for 24 hours after it happened.
Yeah, no doubt. It's like this. I was reading about this in the Wall Street Journal, and I had not read it. And this is completely separate, but it just shows you how much stuff happens that you don't hear about. and I'm only trying to draw the comparison of how you don't always hear about things right away, that there was 17 days of drones, Chinese drones, flying over military bases, including NOB Norfolk, the largest military port base in the world, Navy base in the world. Last year, for 17 days straight, Chinese drones flying over, and the Biden administration did nothing about it. And we are just now finding out about it, just like that being 24 hours after.
Well, it's interesting that you pointed out that way, because the reports had been that we've always been dealing with these high-altitude Chinese drones, these balloon drones on a regular basis, and that even while they were going on during the Trump presidency, you had officials that didn't tell him because they didn't want him shooting them down.
Yeah.
That might cause some sort of international conflict.
They said that the Pentagon said there is a law against shooting down drones above military bases, which seems nuts.
Of all
How
places.
could that be even real? But they said if it doesn't pose imminent threat. And I would say, how do you know it doesn't pose imminent threat? How do you know what it's going to do or they're going to do? Because it was like 10 or 15 of them 17 days in a row.
So we're then now having to figure out if this is being hyper cautious, that anyone who's this armed with this sort of fake credentials, okay, that's a possible assassin. But you then also have the same thing on the other end of, this is a person who, when you look at some of their social media, they show up at all these different Republican events and they're flat out telling you, no, I always travel with this stuff. It's like, so were you just traveling with your armament of what you travel with, and then you decided you want to rub elbows again with more Republican politicians? Like, there's something very strange about this one.
Yeah, it doesn't feel right. Dude was booked on weapons charges and then posted $5,000 bail. And then the sheriff turns around and tells the folks in his department that they had saved Trump's life. The feds do not agree with that assessment. So you got local law enforcement saying this is what happened, this is what we feel like happened. The feds are saying, nah, something else happened altogether. And the feds, which I don't trust as far as I can see them, that automatically gives me, pause about listening to what they say. I feel like the boots on the ground, the folks on the ground, it's like with, and as another comparison, up in Western North Carolina, when I was told FEMA's doing a great job, everything's wonderful. And yet the people on the ground were saying, oh, no, it's not. It's not wonderful. Now, a week and a half in, 10 days in, whatever it is, things have gotten better. The money's starting to flow. But I tend to believe the boots on the ground. So if you're asking me to handicap this, I immediately lean toward favoring the folks, the sheriff's department, the people that actually caught the dude.
I think it's, and this is where I'm tapping the brake here. Because he's talking to the media in the way that he is, I was like, we don't have that benefit of the initial shooter because his head is no longer intact.
Yeah.
The second attempted assassin, from what I understand from all the reports, all he's doing is babbling about Ukraine like he's been brainwashed.
Yeah.
And that's all he tells the authorities about is what we have to do in Ukraine, what we have to do in Ukraine. This person is coherent in speaking to the media and telling you, here's what I back. Here's how I'm a Republican. I was traveling with my guns. There's a part of me that does think maybe you're traveling with your guns and your entire you tried to break into the concert because you like hanging out with the people.
Could be.
Or because, again, it was all left in his truck.
Crazy.
Well,
yeah, right. But you have to be crazy, I think, to
want to break into something like this.
Yes.
Like we have friends of ours, and it's more than just good strong Stephanie. The amount of people that are trying to get into the Trump rally. Like, I have a friend of mine that her daughter and my daughter play volleyball together. She was showing me her pass, that she's already got her pass, and she told me, do you realize you have to get in line like hours and hours and hours and hours before? And I was like, yeah, your pass is just to get you into the building. Yeah. It doesn't guarantee you access.
Right.
It's first come, first serve. And by the way, if you're going to have even a higher level of access, you're going to go through a higher level of scrutiny. And so that apparently is what ended up getting this Vem Miller.
Unless you're in Butler. And then,
unless you're in Butler.
Then you can just ease on in there.
And the powers that be took their first opportunity to get rid of the person who's going to be the next president if things continue to trend in the way that they are.
Holy cow. I want you to hear from Esty Palti. She is the woman that does the incredible Kamala impressions and her take on this third attempt.
How do you fumble a third attempt? I don't think you understand. I can't do any more interviews. I've only gotten more unlikable somehow. At this point, Hunter Biden has a better chance of winning. I'm concerned. Stop hiring amateurs and take him out. Hillary, of all people, I didn't expect you to be, mostly bark and no bite. Where are you getting these morons? Tell them to use a Glock. Just make sure it's not mine.
And then the cackle.
Well, what are you guys going to do? Try again? It's not fourth time's a charm. All right? All right. Look, I don't want to fight. I just don't understand how you can fumble something like Coachella. I expected Benghazi from you, but all right.
Okay.
So funny.
Well done.
Her spot, everything is spot on. Her impression spot on. The cackle just out of the blue, spot on. And then bringing in all the layers of Hillary, I thought you'd be more bark, more biting, less bark. Anybody that could knock somebody off, and you call, or is it your name Hillary for a reason?
Isn't this your professional ability? Isn't this why I keep a tweet on my phone that just says you've been killed or you've been suicided by Hillary Clinton? That's right. You will not be able to testify to anyone.
So good, so good, so good. Can I change directions only because I just see it up in the monitor here in the studio? Did you guys see where Brantley Gilbert, he's from Jefferson, Georgia, country star, delivered his own baby, his wife's baby, his wife's child, their child. This should be easy to say this, but every time I say it, it doesn't sound right in my head. Anyway, he delivers the baby at a concert in Mississippi. So he's on stage in Mississippi. He leaves the stage for like an hour. They don't cancel the concert. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody can figure out what's happening. They don't know if he's fallen ill. They don't know whether they should leave, but they keep getting the message the concert is not canceled. And it's all because Brantley Gilbert from Jefferson, Georgia, country star, was delivering his child on the bus in Mississippi. Dude, I don't know that I would have that in me. You know what I mean?
No,
to then go back out and finish the concert after you delivered your child on the back of the bus.
I'll just say this. There's certain things you can't unsee.
Yes.
That would be one of them.
That's one of them. But
right.
to be able to go back out there and be like, all right, Mississippi, I'm back.
I stayed north of the equator for both children, just so everyone knows.
I didn't. I was down there with a doctor talking politics.
Yep.
It was crazy enough. He was a Republican right-wing MAGA extremist too, before it was even cool.
So what do you think about this George Bush?
Yeah, exactly. It was we had can I tell you the strangest thing is that we ran into him at a Mexican restaurant one time about 10 years later. It was one of those awkward encounters. You know what I mean?
Yes, because you've both seen it.
Exactly.
That's all.
That's exactly right. It was awkward. I ain't gonna lie. Get your number 2 pencil and some scratch paper. You are headed to class with Front Office Los next. It's story time after headlines on Extra 106.3.
Latest breaking news to the conservative voices you know and trust. Your best new follow on social media is Extra 106.3. We're at XTRA 106.3 on Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, Threads, and LinkedIn, and pretty much any social media you scroll through every day. And we drop exclusive giveaways, new daily content, and the latest breaking news from Georgia and across this great nation. Interact with your favorite Extra personalities. Get the latest on our live events and so much more. Follow at Extra 106.3 across all your social media and keep up with Atlanta's only conservative voice.
Hey, Atlanta, it's Mark from the Safe House. And now the security riddle of the day. When times get tough, where do you keep your stuff? Answer, in a quality safe from the Safe House, of course. Don't go to a big box store and get a fake safe. That would be as effective as Joe Biden's fake border policy. For over 30 years, the Safe House has been providing the best quality safes on the market. Brands like Browning, Fort Knox, and Champion. And with the largest selection of safes on display in Georgia, Georgia, we're confident we can help you pick the right safe to fit your needs. So drop by our huge showroom or go to atlantasafehouse.com.
Are you concerned about securing your family's future and assets? Look no further than Nelson Elder Care Law. As a family-owned and family-focused firm, we offer absolute assurance and peace of mind through our comprehensive asset protection services. Visit NelsonElderCareLaw.com to explore how we can safeguard your legacy and provide tailored solutions for your family's well-being.
What's up, Atlanta? It's Ben Burnett, host of the Weekend Ben Burnett Show. Each and every weekend, right here on Xtra 106.3, we unpack all the week's events. We talk about all the issues with a local Atlanta-based flavor. You can catch me each and every weekend, Saturdays at 2 and Sundays at noon. If you ever miss an episode, you can go to the podcast park or wherever you download all of your content, and I'll be right there. Thanks for listening to the Ben Burnett Show, proudly brought to you by Butler Snow.
Hi, this is Ben.
And I'm Walt from Horizon Background Screening. About 15 years ago, I was running a private investigations company, and my partner Ben here was running a background screening company and saw the need to put the two together. The background screening helps employers, churches, volunteer organizations, and those sorts of things to help find the right people, get those right people in place, and screen out people that would be a hindrance to their company. On the other end, the investigative work, we can help companies, individuals, insurance companies, law firms gather information, a lot of times around lawsuits and other legal work like that, but also helping people when they're going through a divorce or going through other hard things in life.
25 plus years, we've just been blessed with growth and have basically become a nationwide provider of both pre-employment background checks and private investigative services.
The best way for people to find us is on our website. A quick Google search of Horizon Background Screening or look at us at horizonscreening.com.
You know the old expression, I love it when a plan comes together? Well, with our First Liberty Notes, this has been so true. Hello, I'm Brant Frost, founder of First Liberty Building and Loan. You hear about our family's company all the time right here on the station. For over 30 years, we've been the local lender who said yes when the big banks say no. A couple of months ago, we opened up our First Liberty Notes program to Main Street investors just like you, and the response has been just incredible. Folks from airline pilots to physicians to even pastors are now earning 8 to 13% interest rates while helping to fuel the growth of local small businesses. If you're a qualified investor with a minimum of $25,000, you too could be earning 8 to 13% interest. We'd love to have you join our First Liberty family today. Go to FirstLibertyGA.com and see if our First Liberty Notes are right for you. Go to FirstLibertyGA.com. That's FirstLibertyGA.com.
First Liberty Notes are not obligations of or guaranteed by any financial institution and are not secured by any collateral. They are not FDIC insured or guaranteed by any government agency. You could lose money. SEC accredited investor status must be verified. Securities not offered in any jurisdiction in which it is unlawful.
Hey guys, Donald Trump Jr. here with urgent news. The world's central banks are making unprecedented moves, and it's time to pay attention. In 2022 and 2023, they bought more gold than ever before. And now in 2024, the trend is accelerating. Why? Because central banks have lost faith in the dollar. And in these uncertain times, gold is the ultimate safe haven. If you too are worried about the dollar, I urge you to take similar action by diversifying your IRA or 401k into gold with my trusted friends at Birch Gold Group. To see how it works, get your free info kit on gold IRAs by texting the word HEDGE to 989898. Birch Gold is the only gold company I trust. They provide an easy process to roll over your 401k or IRA into gold without losing your tax advantage status. So text HEDGE to 989898. That's HEDGE to the number 989898 to get your free info kit on gold IRAs from Birch Gold.
Message and data rates may apply. The stories that matter to you. These are your Georgia headlines. Presented by RBM of Atlanta, your Mercedes-Benz connection since 1964.
Good morning. Here are your headlines for today, Monday, October 14th. The former President Donald Trump will make his way into Forsyth County tomorrow as he will be taking part in a Fox News town hall that'll be focused on women's issues. That'll be as he tries to narrow the gap when it comes to women between himself and Vice President Kamala Harris. Speaking of trying to narrow the gap, currently you have the Democrats looking to narrow the gap with men, as former President Bill Clinton was in rural Georgia doing a men's outreach. Again, kind of with the shades of the Bubba's for Bill sort of era from the 90s. From NFL action, the Atlanta Falcons are now 4-2 on the season as they get a 38-20 win over the Carolina Panthers in Charlotte yesterday. The Falcons do sit atop the NFC South with a 4-2 record.
Make sure you have something to write on. Get your note. Maybe you take notes on your phones these days. I see people at church do that all the time. Usually they would have a notepad taking notes. That's what Presbyterians do, take notes. And but I've seen the transition moving to digital. So however you do it doesn't matter to me. But just be ready because we're getting ready for story time with Front Office Los. And this union of Donald Trump and RFK was because of something that happened, something bigger that happened about 120 years ago. Story time is brought to you by Atlanta Ramjack, your local foundation repair experts. AtlantaRamjack.com.
Settle in and get comfortable, folks. It's story time with Uncle Los.
Thank you, Ramjack. Thank you, Tug.
You bet.
Thank you, Sweet Clean Joe.
Handsome devil.
Part of the reason why the tent when it comes to Donald Trump is growing is in part because of the amount of people that previously saw themselves as Democrats and recognize that there's issues going on with the party, there's issues with the system, and they don't want to be part of it anymore. Elon Musk, we might look back at him buying Twitter and went, wow, you might have saved free speech in this country in the way that it's evolving. It's not just about in newspapers anymore. It's what you're putting out in digital spaces. Well, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he was the one after the assassination attempt, the first one on Donald Trump, who reached out to him and they had a discussion about, what are your goals? And Robert F. Kennedy Jr., what are your goals? And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. brought up the fact that we have a nation of sick people. It's the reason why when you look at how we make up, 4% of the world population, yet we had about 60% of the COVID deaths. We are a sick nation. We are a nation that has prescribed more pills than almost anybody else in the rest of the world. And it's a cycle that started 120 years ago. But let's go back a little bit. You realize when we go back to like the Civil War era, like the 1860s, you realize most kids were born at home?
Yes.
Well, it's wild, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And this is, I don't mean to sound morbid, but even funerals were done at home too. I mean,
everything was at home.
The entire process of living happened at home.
You had midwives and you had people that would practice medicine, but typically it was the term that they always use, holistic. But it was typically herbal remedies. It was natural stuff that was out there. Well, let's fast forward as we get into the early 1900s, and a lot of it, by the way, came from listening to, it was the Joe Rogan podcast with Callie and Casey Memes that took me down this road. These are two people, one of them in Casey being a Stanford-educated doctor who just said, I can't do this any longer in terms of, I'm part of a system that basically, if you need a surgery or not, we're going to give you a surgery. And that was her job. She's a surgeon. She's like, I can't do it anymore. Callie was basically a lobbyist who worked with a lot of conservative think tanks and was like, I'm a never Trumper. Then he turned into, no, that guy's the most pivotal politician of the last 30 years. That's who we need to elect.
A J.D. Vance type moment.
Very much so. And they both talked about how we are basically hurting ourselves. And they brought up kind of the history of what had gone on. Well, here's the history. And this is stuff where I went down the rabbit hole. Like I was tumbling all the way down going, well, I kind of knew about that. Like I've always known about the stories of John D. Rockefeller. And John D. Rockefeller, if you don't know, this was a man who at the turn of the century, he was like the oil baron. Standard Oil was his company, and he managed to lock up about 90% of the oil production in the United States. He was the world's first billionaire. He was also a philanthropist. Like he gave away a lot of money, and so there's always this belief of, hey, he wasn't one of the bad guys. He wasn't one of the good guys either, but,
he tried to balance himself out.
Trying to balance himself out there. It's why you got, Rockefeller Center and all the stuff that they would donate to. But there was something that was interesting at the turn of the century, and the means brought it up, and then I was like, all right, I'm going to go look into this if this is really real, or is this just, a discussion point that goes on.
And this was on the Rogan show where you saw them?
They were on that show. And then they spent maybe 10 seconds mentioning this.
Okay.
And that 10 seconds turned it into like 5 hours for me.
Okay.
Like, you never know where that inspiration comes from. It's like, oh, that sounds interesting. I'll go look into it. Well, as it turns out, that when you had the turn of the century with the man that basically owns 90% of the oil production within this country, you had petroleum-based products that could be used for medication. And what occurred was that we had went through the last 50 years where everything, the Germans had made some synthetics. They'd made some prescription stuff, but it really hadn't taken off. It wasn't until we got into the early 1900s where you had Andrew Carnegie, you had John D. Rockefeller that said, we need to overhaul the way medicine is done in this country with our money. and we will pay for the Flexner report. This is a man who went to go tour all of these different medical institutions, all these different medical schools, and reported back with, here's how we do it. We need to make the focus of American medicine a lot less quackery. Let's make it more about prescription drugs and surgeries. And by the way, who's going to provide you the prescription drugs? The Rockefeller Company. We are. We're going to provide all of this stuff to you. And what that did is that launched us into this 120-year run where the entire medical industry really became about, all right, if you have an issue, let's take care of the issue. If you have an ailment, let's give you a drug that we've produced for it. It wasn't until we got into the 1950s that when we had the birth control pill that really came about that the industry went, wait a minute, we can put somebody on something for a long period of time. Like nowadays, if you were to look at what is going on, like heart disease is the number one killer of people in this country. And yet we have the most statins that are going on in this country because the industry, the big pharma, the industry looks at it as if we can get these people on these drugs for 30 or 40 years, we're going to make money the whole time. And so what has gone on, and this is where RFK Jr. and Donald Trump get into it, they've looked at it as how do we break this cycle that started 120 years ago, that started with let's make sure we have people giving birth in our hospitals. Not a bad thing. A little bit better of an idea. I'm good with that there. But how do we get them taking our surgeries and our prescription medication? And then from 1950 on, how do we keep them on it? And so RFK Jr. is bringing up the way we break this cycle is by overall health. Start telling people how to be healthy. The things that we weren't doing during COVID, we should be doing now. The things that we have not been doing when it comes to our kids' food, we should be doing. And I'm not talking about some of the fake, nasty stuff that Michelle Obama was looking to pump at you. It's like, how do we get the processed foods away from our kids?
Sure.
You know, how do we do this? And again, this is now on both sides. This should not be just a Democrat or Republican thing. This should be both. And the Democrats that aren't going along with it, it's typically because they're tied to big pharma and big food.
I wonder, though, in your 5-hour deep dive,
it was deep in there.
Was there ever a point, though, because I want to have some sort of hope in people and humanity, which I don't have a lot, but because the good book tells me I shouldn't have a lot. Was there? I mean, but it really does. I mean, it says we're all broken, we're all sinful, we're never good. We are never good. The Bible says we are not good, and I believe that. Was there ever a moment that was there anything wholesome that, like, I genuinely want to do good with the medicine that we're producing? Or was it, hey, once we figured out we can get people hooked on it, damn the good stuff, let's get them hooked on it?
All right, there is moments where you have the development of things, you know, like, for instance, a polio vaccine. Like, there's medical stuff, there's medical ingenuity that comes around, you say, wow, that's great. What has occurred, and here's where I tell you, if there's a hopeful moment with all of this, there's a hopeful moment with getting Trump into office and having RFK Jr., and I tell you what, you stick one of like these doctors that have been ostracized through COVID.
Gosh,
yeah, have them run the CDC.
Yes.
See how things change.
For sure.
Like, have these are the sort of things
and have Elon in there with a machete.
With the machete, and let's take this stuff out as we go.
Altogether.
One of the things that we found, and I think that you would definitely agree with this, especially when you talk about going into the Bible, when you give people choice, you have the possibility of good outcomes. You know, the idea of free will is it's Judeo-Christian ethics. It's biblical in nature. It's from the Torah of if you give people the choice, they're going to disappoint you, but they may not.
Right. But it's a flip of the coin, and you got to be ready for both.
And so what all these people have been asking about, whether it's the means or whether it's RFK Jr. or whether it's now, you know, Maha, as Donald Trump has brought up, hey, let's make us healthy again.
Maha.
We're not saying to get rid of sugary drinks. That's not the point. We're not saying to get rid of your dark chocolate or any of the stuff you like. Or it is
moderation.
Give people the information and then give them the options out there. That's what the discussion point has been. One of the things that we do, and the means it brought up, and I looked it up, and it totally happens. Cory Booker is really big into this. You know, one of the Democrats, senators out there. We have given subsidies for stuff like sugary drinks. It's like, wait a minute, why should we be, with our tax dollars, subsidizing stuff that we know that is potentially harmful to kids and to adults? It's like, if you want them to do it on their own, let them do it on their own. When you look at the amount of different stuff you'll see, for instance, I think they were bringing up like Lucky Charms. Lucky Charms, and I looked it up too, and you have a woman who does this work on Twitter. Lucky Charms has something like 20 to 40 different chemicals in it, which sold to us to make it brighter and make it look different than they allow in Canada, where they don't allow any of that stuff.
Yeah, Europe too.
Or what's sold to Europe.
Yeah.
And so I just think that it's interesting that we have to go back 120 years ago to find this entire way that our medical system ramped up to a point now where it's taken two guys, one he's a former Democrat. I mean, he's a Kennedy, okay? Like, that's Democrat royalty. It takes him and a system disruptor like Donald J. Trump to basically make the point, we're going to break this so that we're not telling your 6-year-old kid who's having weight issues that they need to take Ozempic.
And you have people on the other side that are saying, no, these people are awful. These people are evil. These people are crazy. These people are dictators and terrorists. And yet, their goal is to give you the option of being healthy and put you in a position so you can it's like the food pyramid.
Yes, that's a scam all in its own.
Absolutely. 100%. And I think, I'm sure, I don't know how it plays into what the story that you're telling, but I bet there's some tentacles and some overlap.
You have had the industry, the entire food industry has been at war with each other. This is the reason why, and we all know this. This is the reason why you'll turn on the news and they'll be like, eggs are going to kill you. And then 2 weeks later, why are eggs fine? Salt, it's this. Sugar, it's every single one of them is at war for their different profit share. You know, milk was really big on, hey, does body good. Here's all of our athletes with milk mustaches. Well, that was all industry driven. Remember we were growing up, pork, the other white meat.
Yeah,
That's all done by industry. And so
it's good marketing.
That has largely been, when it comes to what is actually healthy for you, that has largely been captured by all these industries. They're all going to tell you that they're healthy for you, and they're all going to tell you that the other product's bad.
Yeah, it's like the all natural, because that was such a good hook. Everything's all natural. And yet, it wasn't good for you at all. It was all naturally bad for you. God, these people. Can you just tell the truth once in a while? That's what I would appreciate. Morning Xtra does. We tell the truth. Doug, Rhino, and Los. And we were right. Again. Los is going to tell you why next on Xtra 1063 on the app or streaming on the YouTube channel. Hey, it's Tug. The Morning Xtra has you covered from 6 to 10, and Kimmer's got you on the ride home.
You know that stupid idea she has of the unrealized capital gain?
Oh, my God. Tell that story.
Your mom purchased her home 40 years ago, paid $50,000 for it, all paid off, which is great because mom is living on a fixed income. It's now worth $500,000. Kamala wants her to pay 25% of that gain, even though she has no plans on selling her home. Now, mom has to take out a $112,000 loan on the home to pay the 25% Kamala unrealized capital gain. Mom cannot afford that loan on her fixed income with rising inflation, so she loses the home she raised her family in and worked so hard to pay off. But don't worry, a big corporation will come in and buy her home and rent it back to her. They said you will own nothing and be happy. Do you now see how they will accomplish that? Drain your savings and tax you out of your home. Capital gains will also apply to your 401, etc. Do a lot of thinking before you elect this woman.
The Kimmer Show, every afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. on Xtra 1063 and the Xtra app.
2024 winding down. Central Heating and Air Conditioning would like to thank you for trusting them with your heating and air conditioning and home performance needs. They want to give you the best price and the best service that is out there on the market. Central Heating and Air Conditioning is offering right now $2,000 off a Carrier system. That's with Carrier rebates. That's the best in the business. Carrier, working with the best in the business at Central Heating and Air Conditioning. You're guaranteed to get the best deals. And why are they the best? Well, they're one of the few locally owned HVAC companies in Atlanta. A lot of them are here. A lot of them say they're locally owned, but most have been bought out by huge companies that are no longer based in Atlanta, but they keep that Atlanta name just to make sure they can hook you in. They can convince you, yes, we're just like everybody else. We're an Atlanta-based company. May have been started here, isn't headquartered here anymore. Central, you're not just a number, you're a member of the family. Been that way since 1947, and it will continue that way. Locally owned with Chuck. He is the guy that makes the decisions. He's the one in the corner office. He's the one that can make sure that your service, your installation, or your home is as perfectly handled as it possibly can be. He is the QC. He's the quality control. He's the owner. And that's why it's important to deal with a local company. That way you can reach out to the owner and speak with them. 770-GET-HEAT, centralheat.com. Turn to your Atlanta carrier experts, Central Heating and Air Conditioning.
As the longest continually operating franchise in Major League Baseball, the Atlanta Braves have plenty of history to share with fans. Tours of Truist Park are offered year-round, and take guests behind the scenes to areas normally off limits during games. With artifacts and exhibits distributed throughout the ballpark, it's a definite must for any Braves or baseball fan. Visit Braves.com/tours to purchase your tickets today. And did you know that along with exclusive tours around the ballpark, you can also host a private event at Truist Park? Corporate meetings, trade shows, team building events, holiday parties, rehearsal dinners, you name it. Truist Park can host it. Their dedicated staff is sure to bring your vision to life. Whether you're looking for a large space or something more intimate for your next event, there's a venue to accommodate your needs. Visit Braves.com/events to see more details. Atlanta Braves Baseball. We are Braves Country.
Looking for bold discussions on vital issues? Tune in to The Janelle King Show every Saturday at 3 p.m. with an encore episode every Sunday at 9 a.m. right here on Extra 106.3, where we dive into kitchen table topics that are essential for a strong republic. Don't miss an episode, but if you do, it's all good because we have new podcasts that drop every Tuesday on the Podcast Park or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't miss out on these thought-provoking conversations.
UCB Inc. has openings for the position of USIT Data Engineering Lead located in Smyrna, Georgia. Job duties for the position include focusing on innovative algorithms and models that make intelligent, automated decisions in real time to make engineering process better, faster, and accurate. This is a full-time position. Multiple positions available. Position based in Smyrna, Georgia. Telecommuting permitted up to 60% of the time. Apply with resume to hranswers@ucb.com and reference job code 7346524.
Kids across America are going to school hungry. Millions of kids every day. Hungry kids get sick more often and can struggle in school. It can be harder for them to focus and learn. But one simple thing can help change all of this for a hungry child in America. Good, healthy food and the energy it brings. With help from caring people across America, No Kid Hungry is providing healthy meals and hope to hungry kids so they can build better futures.
We want to ensure that all of our kids have healthy meals every day.
Thank you.
Thank you for helping feed our kids.
To learn more about ending child hunger in America, go to helpnokidhungry.org today.
Atlanta's only conservative news and talk station is always streaming live across Georgia on the Extra 106.3 app. Get the live stream and your favorite Extra podcasts anywhere you go. Grab the Extra 106.3 app now for Apple or Android.
We ain't trying to brag or anything, but I feel like we may be ahead of things often as they happen in politics in America. Front office Los, brag on us a little bit.
We started off last week by talking about the sea change, that they were no longer going to try to hide Kamala Harris and limit her public exposure, and that now they were going to go on the offensive. And part of the reason why was their terrible numbers when it came not just to men being the predominant amount, but also why was she going to The View? Why was she going to Stephen Colbert? Because within the traditional people that vote for Democrats, they're not planning on voting for her. That was the problem. So it started off with last week, and let's see her get out there. And by the time we hit Friday morning, about an hour and a half left in the show, we were introduced to the video of all the men talking about not being afraid to vote for a woman. And you and I, because our BS meter immediately went off as we're trying to watch it. I think it was the guy sitting on the tailgate. If you haven't seen this,
yes, the one with the hip twist going. Come on.
It was out for about 12 hours. And I think it was such a murderous to her own campaign moment that it was like, quickly, we gotta scrub this.
We got to take this down.
We got to scrub this. What happened was you had a director who found 5, and we had called it. We're like, those are like actors. Like one of them is, I eat carburetors for breakfast. I work on cars. No, he found out it's an actor. You had a guy who was sitting on, as you said it, giving you the little look.
Dude,
of,
you remember the old Olin Mills poses where they'd have you twist and turn, tilt your head.
That's how he was posed.
That's exactly right. And no dude, real dude, because they're trying to tell you this real dude, no real dude sits like that.
And it was pointed out that he's also an actor, works over in California. And again, there was a rundown of each one of these guys. And one of them, when I started using the facial recognition software, the AI software you can get online.
What website is that again? So other people.
I'd have to go ahead and pull it up. I was going to say, when I looked it up, in fact, I'll take a quick little.
Lowe's literally, before we had even talked about it good, he had already ran the facial recognition software thing and already had identified like 3 people.
I had 2 different ones. There was socialcatfish.com.
Okay.
And then there was a Microsoft product that also had it, azure.microsoft.com.
Okay, there you go.
These were meant to just do an image search. And a lot of these are used to find out, is anyone using your image or your kid's image or anything else online in an unauthorized manner? But you can also use it to find out who these people are at times.
Right. Yeah, right.
And so one of them had these explicit images that were coming up. Now, you couldn't tell everything, but you knew there was something weird about it. And I didn't say anything at the time. I just told Tug when we finished off the show, just wait. It's going to be about 24, 36 hours for people to find out that these are all actors, and then they'll start going from there. As it turns out, the gentleman who is sitting on the bench, who's doing I'm lifting weights, and then I'm braiding hair, turns out he does something that we would know as adult films.
Oh, my.
But not just regular adult films.
Oh, right. It's got to be worse.
Now, these are known as gay for pay, just so you can designate that I'm a straight person, but I'm doing this for money. That is who the Kamala Harris campaign went and found to tell you about what it is to be a man. Think about the disconnect that's going on, where you would find an actor who does this type of adult entertainment, and that's the person posing as the one who says, if you vote for her, you're a man. There is no bigger disconnect in this world right now in politics than what Democrats believe men should be versus what we believe men should be. Nothing bigger.
And I think because they're used to making fun of dudes in TV shows, right? The bumbling dad, the Al Bundy type, or, insert whatever the character is. They believe that is a real thing, even though it's completely made up in Hollywood. I mean, are there men like that? Sure. Tim Walz is one of them. But I mean, for actual dudes, like when you played that video, I was like, nobody that I know, nobody that's in my friend group would fall into the category of any of those dudes because they don't look real to me. They're a figment of Democrat leftist imagination. It is not real. But the problem is, actual dudes can see it. Normal people can see it. But if you are brainwashed, or, I don't know, if you're uncertain about the way men should act, you might watch that video or that advertisement and go, yeah, that looks right to me. That means you're not at all dialed into reality.
But I wonder, those people that are looking to vote for Kamala Harris, and predominantly it's going to be women, but the men, the ones that are trying to, hey, I'm a feminist too. Well, you should always be leery of those guys because they're creepers.
For sure.
But for those guys, does watching a video of these men who are telling you that they're men,
air quote men,
does that make them feel better about themselves to watch other guys that are clearly lacking when it comes to the amount of, let's just say, testosterone in their lives?
I think it's just more that they don't...
Like they feel non-threatened?
Yeah, I guess. But I think it's more that they have no idea what a real dude looks like, acts like, behaves like, talks like, what his everyday life is like. And for this guy, what was this guy's role with the hip twist?
Okay, so what
was he supposed to be?
He was supposed to just be a regular guy out on the ranch.
Okay, well, right? Nobody on a ranch sits like that.
Or dresses like this.
Ever. That dude looks like he stepped out of an LL Bean ad.
Like, you look at a dude who works on a ranch, by the time it's like 6:30, 7 o'clock near sundown, they don't look like they stepped out of, as you said, LL Bean. It's not how it works. By the way, Mary Catherine Ham had a really funny quote, really funny tweet. She had that picture of this gentleman sitting with the hip twist.
Yes.
And it just said, this is like the scene in Queer Eye when the guys show up and one of them is an affectionate cosplay of the hetero archetype they're making over and announces their plans to fabulize him.
Dude, I have no idea what you just said. I have no clue what you just said.
I just love the idea that this is the part where they go, okay, we see who you are. Now we're going to make you fabulous.
Oh, okay, got it. All right, yeah, you have to break that down. I need that in English because I don't know what she said.
But this this continues to move over the weekend of Tim Walz, where let's have him pheasant hunting with a gun.
God, dude.
All right.
The man carried a weapon of war, and yet he can't load
a shotgun.
It should be shocking to no one. But it's shocking in the fact that he's supposed to be the coach, the hunter, the guy's guy. And when I saw him wave with two hands, I knew he wasn't going to be able to load the shotgun.
There's only two ways to load most of your shotguns that are out there when it comes to hunting, okay? There's typically the over barrel. Like, for instance, my first was a single shot 410.
Yeah.
Barrel drop, put my shell in, okay, let's go. Same thing. When you're looking at like a 12 or 20 gauge, like a typical hunting shotgun, it only loads one way, really.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's sitting in there like desperately trying to figure out how to jam that shell into the bottom, I'm sorry. You're trying to reach these men that you have a problem with, but you've spent the better part of at least the last 4 years telling me what your version of manhood is.
Right.
And
which is not real.
And it couldn't be more different than the way I see it. I was watching, I put on Real Time because I wanted to see Buck Sexton on there.
Yeah.
And he's talking with a woman from CNN, and she's talking about how, like, well, we don't mean all men. We're just talking about a-holes. It's like, no, you don't. You've meant all men.
Yeah, that's right.
You've been talking about all men in this way, that if they don't jump into your archetype, if they don't fit exactly, then, well, they must all be wrong. There's something bad about them. They have toxic masculinity. You showed me a video on Friday of a bunch of dudes that you tried to cosplay like they were manly.
Oh, God.
And one of them does adult films that he appears with other men.
Gay for pay, what's he saying?
Gay for pay.
Yeah,
that's a designation to let you know I'm not homosexual. I'm just doing this as an act.
But if you're doing that, why would you even care? Like, I mean, if you're doing it, you're doing it, right?
It's a stigma
I
within
suppose.
the industry.
I guess so, man. A dude that is kind of a hunting guy on social media, he said, first of all, you would not use the A400 Beretta to go pheasant hunting. He was like, you would never do that. So that's the first thing that stands out to him as a pheasant hunter. I've never been pheasant hunting. I've got a shotgun at home. I've been hunting a million times.
Dove, quail, and turkey. It's all I've ever
Never
used.
been pheasant hunting. This dude said you would never, ever do it. You would do a break action double barrel. That way, because mostly these guys are guides, and they want to know that when the person shooting can only shoot once or twice, and they know where the shell is going because they've got it pointed that way. He said the reason you wouldn't use the A400 Beretta because it's semi-automatic. You load from the bottom, and it's got 4 shells. It was like they would never want that because you can't keep up with how many times they've shot, especially with a group of people. He went through all the reasons why this was complete BS.
That makes sense. There's a reason why when you do skeet shooting, it's 2 shots.
That's right, yeah. And we just went skeet shooting like a month ago.
From a safety perspective, it's 2 shots, and everybody knows it's 2 shots.
That's exactly right. And that's pretty much breaking down what he said about being out in a group of people inexperienced that you're taking hunting.
Inexperienced like Tim Walz is with a weapon of war. It's not even a weapon of war. It's just a shotgun.
That's the crazy part of it all. Morning Xtra and Xtra 106.3. When we come back, what happened in California won't stop for the next 3 weeks or the next 4 years. The legend Neil Bortz is only on Xtra 106.3. Hey, it's Tug, and here's what you missed from the Talkmaster.
Really, the lottery is a pure sucker's game. Listen to this. The poorest households in this country pay 33% more of their income on lottery tickets than the filthy, evil rich do.
Catch Neil's commentary every day on Xtra 106.3 or listen anytime on the Xtra 106.3 app.
Hey, Jimmy, what's going on?
Oh, hey, Bobby. It's kind of embarrassing. I'm having deck problems.
You're having deck problems?
Hey, keep it down. It's embarrassing.
Look, there's plenty of guys in the neighborhood with deck problems. What's the matter with yours?
Well, it's small and old compared to yours.
All right, let's not make this a deck measuring competition. You just need to call Excavations. They've seen decks of all sizes, shapes, and colors. Good news is Excavations can build you a sweet new deck that you'll love to show off to your friends and neighbors. Don't worry, Jimmy. We're going to get you some big deck energy.
Hi, this is Candace with Excavations, and have I got a tip for you. Don't feel ashamed of your deck. Excavations can build an outdoor living space that you'll be proud of. And with our Exavision, we'll be able to show you your home's transformation before you even begin the work. Keep the HOA off your deck and give us a call today for decks, windows, siding, roofing, and more. Or visit us at exovations.com to get inspired.
You have enough to deal with after an accident. You don't want to spend a lot of that time messing around with insurance companies. Besides, what are you going to say to them? You really know the ins and outs? David Van Sant at Van Sant Law does. He used to work for the insurance companies. Their worst nightmare. He knows who to call, what to say, how to listen to them, and he has your best interest at heart. Van Sant Law, 855-GA-INJURY. VanSantLaw.com, 855-GA-INJURY.
As an official community partner of the Atlanta Braves and the Atlanta Braves Foundation, the Warrior Alliance connects warriors and their families to free services such as health and wellness, housing, employment, education, legal services, and so much more. We need your financial support to increase our impact and change thousands of lives for those who served in the U.S. Armed Forces. It takes more than just thank you for your service. Make a donation to help warriors navigate to success after service. Go to thewarrioralliance.org/donate and make a difference today.
Join your Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets on Saturday, October 19th as they take on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, presented by Invesco QQQ.
And the Jackets take over on down.
Hell of a block party driven by Hyundai will take over the Home Depot backyard pregame, including a free concert featuring one of the world's most recognizable DJs, Regard. Tickets start at $80 at RamblinWreck.com/tickets. Sting 'em.
Have you heard about Sonder and their Georgia-based Medicare Advantage health plans? Sonder Health Plans is committed to revolutionizing healthcare, making it straightforward, personal, and affordable. Call them and ask if you qualify for their fantastic $400 grocery card offer and $0 premiums. They've even got their own radio show and podcast called Weekend Wellness, dedicated to keeping all Georgians healthy and happy at every age. Call 800-331-2928 or visit SonderHealthPlans.com. Sonder Health Plans is an HMO with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in Sonder Health Plans depends on contract renewal.
WFOM and W292EV Marietta, a Dickey broadcasting station. This hour is presented by Van Sant Law, VanSantLaw.com.
More American defense for Israel. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News, announcing a new system will be sent to bolster Israel's Iron Dome. The same day, a Hezbollah drone strike hit an Israeli military base, killing 4 soldiers. Now, this new defense is missile protection.
The U.S. will deploy a THAAD ballistic missile defense battery to Israel. And the U.S. is also providing troops who will operate the THAAD system in Israel. It will help protect Israel from future ballistic missile attacks by Iran or any of its proxies. Israel is still considering its response to Iran's ballistic missile strike nearly 2 weeks ago.
Fox's Nate Foy in Tel Aviv. As Israel keeps battling Hezbollah in Lebanon, it's also targeted Hamas with airstrikes in Gaza, killing at least 24 people. One strike hit a school-turned-shelter where Israel says militants are hiding with civilians. 3 weeks and a day before the election, Pennsylvania is in focus. Both former President Trump and Vice President Harris will campaign there. The day after Harris said in North Carolina,
but I'm going to tell you, it's going to be a tight race.
The former president campaigned in Arizona, another toss-up state.
If you have a ballot, return it immediately. And if not, go vote. Get your you-know-what up and vote.
The man arrested at a Trump rally Saturday in California, Vem Miller, tells Fox News Digital he's a Trump supporter, had no intention to harm the former president, who the U.S. Attorney's Office says was never in danger.
Police say he was driving an unregistered black SUV with a homemade license plate, and he claimed to be a journalist that had VIP access. But when deputies searched his car, they eventually found a shotgun, a loaded handgun, and ammunition. They also found multiple passports and driver's licenses with several different names.
Fox's Brooke Sigmund Miller was released on bail. They handed out the Nobel Prize prize for economics this morning. Darren Asamoglu and Simon Johnson from MIT, James Robinson from the University of Chicago, honored for their research into why some countries succeed and others fail. America's listening to Fox News.
Life takes a toll on our bodies. No way around it. Whether it's sitting hours on end at your computer or working a physical job, over time, your body pays the price. There is, however, an effective way to turn back the clock on pain. Relief Factor. Developed by doctors, Relief Factor helps support your body's response to inflammation. The difference, instead of masking pain, Relief Factor helps eliminate it for good. And it's 100% drug-free. If the pains that come with living a full life are affecting you, do as so many others have. Turn back the clock on pain with Relief Factor. Their 3-week quick start is just $19.95, less than $1 a day. When you feel good, it's amazing how much more you get out of life. So visit ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. Try it for only $19.95. While we can't stop aging, not yet, we can stop pain. Turn back the clock with Relief Factor.
You're right, and so are we. Welcome to Extra 106.3.
Tug, Rhino, and Los on the Morning Extra on Extra 106.3. Thank you for being here. Want to say good morning to you. 404-741-1230 is that we've already had an explosive show already. I mean, just since we started it.
Your
6 to now.
Your poor brain.
It's
in overdrive right now.
It is, and this 0FG is not helping because the caffeine has even kicked it up another notch.
Yeah, because we were just discussing about the Kamala Harris campaign and their attempted outreach to men in the last basically about 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
It really started beginning of last week. Continued through Friday, and then it kicked up into overdrive with Barack Obama and Bill Clinton getting involved. But as I told you, Tug, that video that they used on Friday used an actor who has done adult films in which he's been acting with other men, and you had a hard time with that.
Well, because they said he was
he's not gay.
That which is
he's playing he's playing as an actor.
What's
up, brother?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that was the part where you're like, I don't. And by the way, but that's what they're using to market to you to try and get your vote.
Yeah. Well, they failed. They have completely failed. Because I mean, either you are or you aren't, right? I mean, that's
is Jake Gyllenhaal gay? I don't know. Is he? He was playing as an actor in Brokeback Mountain. This is a man who's playing. And I would say this too. If I hired one of these 5 actors to do an ad for Donald Trump, would you not go, that's an actor?
Immediately.
He's playing a role as like a Trump supporter.
Yes, because
we know he's not from seeing their social media.
Yeah, none of them are. But
in this case, this gentleman was playing a role.
Yeah, I don't know if you can play that role though. I mean, that's either that's a decision, right? It's just something you either do or you don't.
This is, and we've now seen it with the Hollywood types, and I think that I think it's been smart for the most part that they've stayed away from Hollywood types trying to tell you who to vote for. That's largely been like the last week or two of, okay, let's bring them out.
Are you talking about the Hollywood folks?
Yes.
Yeah, because Jennifer Garner.
Right.
Yeah, she's, what's in your wallet? Nothing, Jennifer Garner. That's
exactly.
the problem.
Julia Roberts, we talked about last week.
Yeah.
They've largely
Oprah.
stayed away from rolling those people out to tell you who to vote for. I think that they really need to start considering, okay, who are like the manly men that we have? Because I don't know how many they got of those.
How many people on the left are like manly?
Like we're rolling out Hulk Hogan. Now, granted, it was comedic, it was funny.
Yeah.
But it also drove home dude who's 70 years old.
That's acting.
Ripped up and
He's
crazy,
acting.
tearing shirts off. We're not going, oh my God, these people, they're so deranged. It's like, no, it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun.
I'm trying to think of like a guy's guy on the left. Joe, can you think of anybody?
Well, they had Joe Burrow. I think he was in the White Guys for Kamala or whatever that was.
But didn't he then?
The football player?
But then he,
wow.
if I remember correctly, he then came out pretty quickly and pointed out, I don't have a political affiliation in this.
Well, then how can you?
Now it's different if you're like George Clooney.
Well,
George Clooney comes across as like dude, but he doesn't want to get that deep into this.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, did y'all see Liz Cheney was threatening to pull support if Kamala kept using her dad's name? She said bastardizing my father's name because they're basically likening him to an extreme liberal, and even Liz Cheney was like, whoa, wait a minute, no. You can't say that.
I find it odd. The ads that they're now using are trying to use people that largely, when it comes to Republican voters, when it comes especially to conservatives, we recognize that person is no longer really part of the movement.
Yeah.
For instance, when you say, this is what John Bolton has to say about Donald Trump. John Bolton exists as, man, what a terrible hire that was. Like when the entire swamp, the entire establishment, when Donald Trump got in 2016, they said, here's your list of people. He went, all right, this is who I'll hire. And then you recognize you were surrounded by swamp creatures, John Bolton being one of them. When I hear that this is what Dick Cheney thinks or this is what John Bolton thinks,
I dismiss it.
In my mind, I'm like, good. I'm glad.
Absolutely, yeah. If they're in opposition to me, I'm doing okay.
I'm in the right headspace.
I'm headed in the right direction. That's exactly right.
Like, I'm on the right track here. Things are going well.
Yeah, I just it's interesting because Virgin River brought up Joe Burrow, but now you're saying he's backed away from it. And a lot of the regular dudes, I just don't see many regular dudes that are like, yep, I'm voting for Kamala. And it's nothing, because it'll be guys like Barack Obama will be like, well, you're misogynistic, you're sexist, you're racist, whatever the ist is today. That we aren't voting for her because she's a woman, which couldn't be further from the truth. If you gave me a competent woman, a woman that had some common sense, a woman that could speak with, just speak normally. I think
it really depends on where you're from. And I think this is what's going to, there's going to be some lessons here that we're going to have. And I can only think of what MSNBC is going to do the night of if Donald Trump, who I believe everything's pointing towards him winning. And I believe that's going to happen. When you're going to hear the criticism, it'll initially be exclaimed, well, the country just couldn't handle a strong woman. It's like, I don't believe that to be the case.
That's silly. That's so dumb.
I think a lot of this comes back to when you have your politics rooted in San Francisco liberalism, that's really hard to run away from when you're part of an administration that is largely seen as a failure.
And then for you to go, I'm not going to govern the way that they're painting me. I'm not this crazy liberal person. I want to build a border wall. I want to do all of these things that sound very, what was it? Newsweek called it last week, very Trumpy.
Yes.
And yet to be a dog whistle to the people that are voting for you already, the ones that you already have, you say, my values haven't changed. So you're talking out of both sides of your mouth and you think we're too dumb to pick up on what you're doing.
Well, and that ends up leading to the problem. It's that we are picking this up. Barack Obama then stands in front of people and basically tells you, stop being dumb. Vote for this. That you're saying.
You're right.
I have to, if I'm choosing this from a perspective of your policies, then I'm doing this on policies and I'm doing this on here's my outcome, especially my wallet over the last 4 years. To then have Barack Obama stand up in front of people and say, listen, you're black, she's black, that should be enough. It's like, no, sorry, we're doing this on policy. You're getting after people because they've gotten past just the skin color issue.
Help me walk through this because it just kind of came to me. Because they called us sexist, racist, whatever. Because
all of them, yeah.
Yeah, whatever the is.
I'm all of them.
Yeah, you're all of them.
Okay.
You're qualified.
Yes, bathe me in all of it.
But isn't that what he's saying about black men who are not voting for Kamala Harris? He's essentially saying that you're bigoted, you're sexist, you're one of those things because you're not falling in line, not doing what you're supposed to do. So you're just as bad as the dudes on the right.
This has been, and I love going back to the free speech angle that we have now with Elon in charge of Twitter. If there's something that's picked up over the last year and a half, especially when it comes to black voters, we were sold a bill of goods with Barack Obama and it wasn't delivered on. Now that happened. What then happened was, and what's with this big mic thing? All right, what it's now turned is that when he gets up on stage, there's somewhere in all of our minds where we go, you promised, didn't deliver, the next guy did, and oh, by the way, I'm thinking about Big Mike.
Yeah, I can't get that on.
Now, I'll judge this off of Neil Bortz. Neil Bortz does not get caught up in crazy conspiracy theories. Like, he'll mock them or he'll tell us the rest of us are dumb for thinking them. And for the most part, I go, all right, outside of leave me alone on aliens, Leave me alone on some of the stuff I want. I want to live in that sandbox, okay, Neil? I want a couple of my own.
Yeah.
But when he starts going after Big Mike on a regular basis, that's when you know it's gotten into the zeitgeist. Okay?
Well, at least it's part of the culture.
Yes,
the political culture. The nature
I'm
of
right there with you.
But I don't know that I think he takes it seriously. More that I think he thinks it's funny.
Yes.
And to poke fun at it and to rock the boat more than he thinks it's real.
So let's say if I'm...
Not that it matters either way, because it's gotten to that point where enough people are talking about it that it's even gotten to him.
What it's done is it's created a cartoonish element.
Yes, that's a great example.
With Barack Obama. So that when he gets up on a stage and tells you, you need to do this or you're not this. You remember, Biden told us, if you're not voting for me, you're not black. That's like, sorry, an 80-year-old man should not be determining how I view myself or how I identify myself just because of his vote and says I'm this or this, depending on whether or not I give him my vote. Barack Obama's playing that same game. And I think he's been turned into a little bit more of a cartoonish figure over the last couple of years. And I don't think it's resonating with men.
And especially with men. But and you see the erosion of support for Democrats overall in the black community. If that number continues to decrease, I mean, that puts Donald Trump into the White House just by that alone, just by people going, you know what, I'm not willing to vote for a cartoon, or I'm not willing to vote for someone who has been a failure in office right now, is a failure, and the failures will continue. You're treating me like I'm stupid to tell me that I have to vote for failure to fit in my community, to belong in my own community. That's absurd.
Yes. The idea that I have to validate myself, and this applies to obviously black Americans, Hispanic Americans, but then also working class Americans.
Whitey McWhiterton's like that commercial that they put out and pulled back quickly.
They're looking at it, it's like, hey, you're a longshoreman. Hey, we're Democrats. You're supposed to be a Democrat too. Well, I just had to go ahead and argue with everybody in order to get my money. You didn't help me on that. These are where they have a disconnect. And them trying to then reach back out to these communities that they've largely ignored. They've just basically said, we've got them anyway. It's not a big deal. Trying to reach back out to them and validating themselves according to a vote. Well, you're not really a hard-working, blue-collar guy unless you're voting for me. I'm sorry. I'm going to be that way regardless either way.
Yeah. Nothing you say changes who I am. It's like, I guess it's kind of like when they hurl the insults at you, racist, sexist, or whatever. But just because you say that about me doesn't make it true. And I'm certainly not validating that nonsense by acting or reacting. And because used to people would react to it, which made you look guilty, right? It made you look like you were something that they were saying you are versus, who you really are. And I think the fact that sting has gone, that sting is no longer when they throw those insults at you, you're just like, dude, I don't even respect you enough to respond to that.
I think about it in these terms, Tug, and I like the way you brought that up, because my wife has been basically a lifelong Democrat. She's always voted Democrat. And part of what has gone on is, in order to be in good standing with the party and with the social circle, it's what do I have to do in order to make sure that the right words are used to describe me? That's kind of the connotation of what it is. Like, for us, we don't care. For them, there's quite a bit that do. What is changing is that we're starting to see them, some of them, move away from this. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is a big factor here, where he's this party no longer represents me. And I feel like the more that I get into this stuff with my wife, the more she recognizes these people don't really value what I bring to the table or what I believe in or how I live my life. And so many of the things that she believes in, a lot of it tied to our daughters, as far as keeping men out of sports and opportunities for women. Title IX.
Absolutely, man. I understand why she believes that.
She's wondering, why is the Biden administration looking to change Title IX to allow men to take access to opportunities away from women? These are the things that now she's starting to go, that doesn't represent me or how I view my life.
Yeah, the facade is coming down. The walls are falling.
So don't worry about if you're in good standing with the Democrat Party or not. That's what's changing. Right. These men are like, you've berated me for the last 4 years, and you've made it harder for me economically. Why are you now trying to establish who I am based on whether or not I vote for you?
I would ask this question. What does being in good standing get you? Nothing. It gets you nothing.
That's always the question.
It gets you absolutely nothing. Your checkbook isn't going to be any fatter. Your wallet's not going to be any fatter. As a matter of fact, it's going to be less and less, as we've seen over this last 3.5 years. And if we continue, if Kamala's elected by...
There's only really one thing. The only one that they ever go to. But you'll be able to kill your baby when you want to.
Oh, yeah. Well,
that is essentially
that's
what their campaign comes down to.
That is all. So... I would
are you going to be able to afford more? You're going to be able to invest more?
No.
You're going to be able to... Suddenly your grocery bill is going to be less? You're going to have more fuel options?
I'm so fascinated by how that moves the needle and why that moves the needle. And as technology is improved in the area of ultrasound and those 3D ultrasounds... I saw a video. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. It was...
Oh, by the way, as you look for that, Joe Burrow did deny that he was ever part of the White Dudes for Harris call and some of those social media rumors.
Yeah.
So it got out there, and he's like, I wasn't on that. I didn't... Somehow somebody linked my name to it.
Channel 5. Channel 5 was like,
It's back during training camp.
Yeah.
He's like, I had nothing to do with that.
What you talking about, man? I don't know what you're talking about.
Hey, he might think this way, but he just wasn't part of that call that then created this buzz of Joe Burrow's with us.
So it would make you question if he's discrediting that. Maybe he still thinks it, but he realizes that that Republicans buy shoes too. Maybe
that's right.
Could be
in sports. That's kind of how that works.
Yeah, I'm not finding it, but anyway, there was an incredible video of here it is, the clump of cells after 8 weeks, and you can see the baby in utero and the hands and legs and feet and moving after 8 weeks. There's a reason that video is not widely spread. It's not widely shared. It's not picked up by mainstream outlets. Because if you could say, yep, I could kill that, no problem. I could step on that like a bug. Dude, you don't have a soul. There's something that is wrong with you. But if you don't show people that, and all they have is that emotional reaction that this is something being taken away from me, then they can keep you in that corner. So you don't ever come out, you don't ever question, and you fall right in line like they want men to do.
In good standing. That is really the term. Because if you're not using the same buzzwords as the basically the globalist communists want you to, then they look to ostracize you. There's something wrong with you. Mm-hmm. You left the cult. And so the minute you say, yeah, about this whole abortion thing, that's really not going to motivate me to vote either. What do you mean? What do you mean it's not? You're supposed to. You're a man. You care about reproductive freedom. I mean, these are what happens when you step out of the in good standing realm.
That's absolutely right.
And you decide there's something when it comes to my country that is more important to me than the weird ideology that you're pushing out there. And I think that's the problem when it comes to them trying to land men. The weird ideology of the last 4 years has a lot of dudes all across the spectrum, race, religion, creed, color, everything, socioeconomic, all going, that comes across as really strange to me.
What needs to happen to you if you won't or don't vote for Kamala Harris, according to MSNBC? We'll discuss that next. On the Morning Extra, Tug, Rhino, and Los until 10.
During the craziest election season we've ever experienced, you need a voice you can trust. Not headlines, not former shock jocks, but veterans, conservative leaders, and Atlanta talk radio legends.
This is the ballgame. This is for all the marble. This is like...
this is for the country.
This is 8 years of turmoil.
Count on the conservative voice of Atlanta to bring you the biggest names in politics as this wild election season changes by the day. This is Atlanta's only conservative news and talk station, Xtra 106.3 and the Xtra app.
Good morning, it's Los. Let's talk about steel blowers. And where do you get that? You get that over at Howard Brothers. Now, I had a moment, I think it was last Thursday, when I looked at the backyard and I went, the leaves are already winning. You got a lot of trees back there, and I recognized, I looked over at my neighbor's yard, and I was like, you know what, he's got a bunch too. Why don't I get out my blower and take care of that? Well, that is when you need to get rid of those leaves. You can do that with a steel backpack or a handheld blower over from Howard Brothers. It makes cleaning up for fall quickly. If you need a handheld blower for those small spaces or a backpack blower for the bigger jobs or a powerful professional model, well, Howard Brothers has every single one of those. And so it's really about going into the store, saying, here's what I'm looking to do, and then letting one of their professionals help you out from there. Find your next steel product at Howard Brothers. They're friendly. They are able to address any of your needs, and also, and here's the big part too, help you maintain your steel blower moving forward. This is part of the reason why my yard looked awesome for about 4 days. Now I got to blow it again. Okay, it's going to happen. I got to go get rid of those leaves. But you know what? Looks better than my neighbor's yard. He hasn't done it yet. He needs to get himself a blower, a steel blower from Howard Brothers. The grass is always greener when you take care of it with steel and Howard Brothers.
What's up, Atlanta? It's Ben Burnett, host of the Weekend Ben Burnett Show. Each and every weekend, right here on Xtra 106.3, we unpack all the week's events. We talk about all the issues with a local Atlanta-based flavor. You can catch me each and every weekend, Saturdays at 2 and Sundays at noon. If you ever miss an episode, you can go to the podcast park or wherever you download all of your content, and I'll be right there. Thanks for listening to the Ben Burnett Show, proudly brought to you by Butler Snow.
Get ready for Real Talk on the Janelle King Show, where we tackle kitchen table topics that are banned from family gatherings, but crucial for a strong republic. Tune in every Saturday at 3 p.m. and every Sunday for an encore episode at 9 a.m. And if you can catch us live, great. But if not, no worries. New podcasts drop every Tuesday on the Podcast Park right here on Xtra 106.3 or wherever you get your podcast. Join us for insightful conversations that matter.
D. Geller & Son Jewelers is celebrating 85 years in Atlanta this month. It's been an honor to be your hometown family jeweler since 1939. Founded as the South's first diamond and jewelry wholesaler, D. Geller & Son brings those quality standards and that unbeatable pricing to the comfort of your neighborhood jewelry store. D. Geller & Son is still 100% family-owned and operated, and we love our community. That's why we have trained jewelers you can trust in every store for professional, reliable service on site. It's why we have Atlanta's best lifetime care plan for free, covering everything from ring sizing to diamond upgrades. And most importantly, it's why we're committed to find or design the perfect piece of jewelry for your most special moments. No matter the budget, you can be confident D. Geller & Son Jewelry is the best quality and value you can find. It's going to last, and they're going to love it. There's no jeweler in Atlanta like D. Geller & Son, and that's why we've been Atlanta's most trusted jeweler since 1939. Come celebrate 85 years with us in Atlanta, Kennesaw, or Sandy Springs, and read our story online at dgeller.com.
Securing America.
Happy 249th birthday to the U.S. Navy. The Navy was created by the Continental Congress October 13th, 1775, a little less than 9 months before the Declaration of Independence was signed, in order to try and limit British control of the seas. The Navy's Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Lisa Franchetti, recently made these comments during a celebratory concert in a video posted to the Navy's social media sites.
Our United States Navy has a rich legacy of warfighting excellence.
She continued to thank the Navy's active personnel, reservists, and civilians.
I could not be more proud of our Navy team and what you do every single day.
Which includes, according to the Admiral, the ability
to promote our nation's prosperity and security, to deter aggression, and to provide options to our nation's leaders.
Next year's 250th birthday celebration will take place in the Navy's original port of Philadelphia. Kevin Uretzky, Fox News.
The stories that matter to you. These are your Georgia headlines. Presented by RBM of Atlanta, your Mercedes-Benz connection since 1964.
Good morning. Here are your headlines for today, Monday, October 14th. Former President Donald Trump will make his way into Forsyth County tomorrow as he will be taking part in a Fox News town hall that'll be focused on women's issues as he tries to narrow the gap when it comes to women between himself and Vice President Kamala Harris. Speaking of trying to narrow the gap, currently you have the Democrats looking to narrow the gap with men, as former President Bill Clinton was in rural Georgia doing a men's outreach. Again, kind of with the shades of the Bubbas for Bill sort of era from the 90s. From NFL action, the Atlanta Falcons are now 4-2 on the season as they get a 38-20 win over the Carolina Panthers in Charlotte yesterday. The Falcons do sit atop the NFC South with a 4-2 record.
What you need done to you if you will not vote for Kamala Harris. If you choose not to, or you won't do it, you don't do it, you won't do it. There is something that they say needs to happen to you. Do you know? Yeah. This came from MSNBC contributor Mara Gay. And I'll let you hear hear her in her own words, and then we'll react to it afterwards.
I think men are in crisis, actually, in this country. I think that plays out different ways. And not all men are in crisis, of course. And not all men are just at home listening to Joe Rogan, being angry or being recruited to fascism. Some just need therapy, like we all do. I go to therapy. That's great. But I think we need to have a real conversation about that rather than allowing this kind of drift toward this faux masculinity that we see Donald Trump evincing.
That woman wouldn't recognize masculinity if it was standing next to her. She wouldn't recognize it. But for her to say men are in crisis, I don't feel in crisis. Do you feel in crisis at all?
I don't really feel in crisis.
I don't feel like I'm in crisis whatsoever. I feel like I'm actually in a pretty good spot in life. Relatively successful, relatively nice home. My son's doing well in college. Our marriage is really good. 23 years with my wife and I. I'm not sure what crisis she thinks we're in, and I don't feel like I need any therapy. I feel like I'm kind of moving right along. Things seems to be going well. Are there days that are longer than others? Sure. Are there conflicts at home? Yes, we got contractors in the house. There's always conflicts. Good Lord. That aside, I feel like I'm in a pretty good spot, Lowe's.
I have moments where even I feel like, wow, that was a really good teaching moment. I'm glad I was there to read that. And it was of all things, it was a Family Feud meme. And it was a joke. It was basically pointing out, what is it, name 10 things. In this case, it make the communists and liberals crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And, Donald Trump's always number one, right?
Numero uno.
And so it always had the point value associated, tax cutting, free speech. But then there was one of them that jumped out to me, and I go, okay, a lot of this goes back to this. It was the term personal responsibility.
Oh, they hate that.
When you use that around somebody with this mindset, they go nuts. Like just the look on their face, like just it
like the meme.
It tears them up. And I think a lot of this comes down to when we're accepting the personal responsibility of being a father, being a dad, being a protector, being a provider, and taking part in your child's life. Like these are all personal responsibility situations that take away from the idea of the power of the nanny state. If my wife and kids don't have to depend on the government, that makes them less dependent on the government.
Which is a negative in the eyes of the leftists.
So when you hear, well, these men are in crisis, if we're in crisis, it's only because you're taking away my money and giving it to other places that don't need it as much as I do.
And I'm not in crisis over it necessarily. Like if it continues, I might be.
Well, she views it because you don't recognize that you should be thinking alone. You should join her groupthink. Otherwise, you're in crisis.
Yes. And I don't think these people understand. Like, because I'm not Hulk Hogan by any means. Like that, you know what I mean? That I would imagine.
Try.
Yeah.
Let's tear my shirt off.
No, but when they think masculinity or toxic masculinity, they think, huge muscle,
Yeah.
This couldn't be further from the truth. Most dudes don't look like that, right?
No.
You do the role that God born you to do. You lead your family, you guide your wife and your children. And does that mean that your wife can't make a decision without you? No, by no means. Like my wife and I discuss everything together.
Sure, we do as well.
99% of the time, my wife will go, whatever you decide, I'm okay with. Because she doesn't want to make the decision, right? She is fearful that if she makes the decision, something will happen negatively and she'll be wrong. And so she's like, please make the decision. And I always do. And you know what? When it doesn't go well, like choosing a contractor.
Then you got to bear the brunt of that.
And I say, it was my choice. I chose unwisely. But I'm okay with it because I was free to make the choice.
Yes, you took the personal responsibility and you will take the outcome.
Right. And I'm going to fight for everything that needs to be done. Like when there is a a question about the wrong grout being used in the new bathroom. Who's going to head that off? Is it going to be my wife? No, because she wants nothing to do with it. But she does want me to, and I'm happy to do it.
I still remember having an argument with this very far left loon, total communist. This was probably 4 years ago on Twitter. And I was trying to get down to the very heart of what he was talking about. Basically, he wanted to make sure that I was paying for his health care. That's what it came down to.
Was he saying that out loud, though? Or was he disguising that?
his belief was that all health care should be taken care of by the government, which when it says by the government means by me.
By you, yeah,
by
because the government only gets funded by your dollars. And just if I could say, sir, if you think that's the case, go look at the way the VA operates. You'll change your mind.
And you'll change your mind. But my entire point to him was, why don't you take the personal responsibility of finding the right position or the right situation for your family if that's the way you feel, rather than waiting on the political winds to change or to me to suddenly say, here, please take more of my tax dollars to use for your health care. Why not take the personal responsibility of going to find the position or finding the pay or finding the situation in order to take care of this issue for your family? That was too much for this person.
Just set him off.
Set him completely off.
Yeah.
That it was on him to determine his own fate. And then I think
doesn't want that responsibility. They're afraid of making those decisions.
But that is what these people, and it's exactly like when it comes to MSNBC, when their analysts start bringing up toxic masculinity or men are in crisis or they need help, it's because in their mind, too many of us have taken personal responsibility and said, it's on me. That's the way I look at it.
They
a
hate
lot of
that.
this, I'd rather it just
They
be on
hate
me. And when I say it's on me, the other end of it is, and please leave me and my tax money alone.
Absolutely.
Leave my tax dollars alone.
100%.
Because it's on me.
That's never going to happen because they don't want it to be on you. And they want to use your tax dollars for other folks.
It's for the pet projects.
I mean, and there's a great video, and it's been a dozen of them, but I just saw it recently, maybe last week. It was a dude walking around a college campus. I can't remember which one it was, but wherever. It was a big university, you could tell that. And he talked about the importance of because he came off as someone supporting socialism, right? Supporting the give to one. And they always swing it around. They're like, do you believe that the government should take care of your health care? Do you believe the government should do this, that, and the other thing?
All mindlessly, yes,
Every
sounds
one
great.
of them. And then they spin it around. He's like, now... what's your grade in English? Oh, I'm an A+ student, man. I've been working so hard. What do you say we take half of that? Half of your, if it's 100, let's say you have 100, let's take 30 points and give that to the dude that's sitting at 60 to bring him up, to a 90. And then that way, he's actually gone a little bit ahead of you, but it doesn't matter because everybody is doing better. And they're like, no, I worked really hard for that. And he was like, so why is it that you in this situation are not willing to give, but you want everybody else to give up their tax dollars to support and pay for whatever program it is that you're promoting? When you put it to them in some sort of practical term where it affects them directly, they always reject it.
This is where we talk about when you see women and when you see the movement back to the Republican Party, it's typically after marriage. The numbers are overwhelming that married women vote Republican about 58% of the time, whereas you're closer to almost 70% of single women that will vote Democrat. But it's always what happens when you're either working or you're managing a household or you're managing income, where suddenly it turns into, what are you doing with my tax dollars? What are you doing with our family's money? And they suddenly steer back to, how about the people that are offering tax cuts to us?
I'll take that.
Because everything is built off, and this is the joke that happens every single time, and Kamala Harris is trying to sing that song. It's so old, we all know it to be different. The wealthy don't pay their fair share.
Oh, my God.
You can take every one of their dollars. Everything is on the backs of the middle class because there's way more of us and we generate way more money. And so every single time government proposes any sort of program, know that money's coming out of the middle class. When she talks about how we're raising taxes, it's your taxes. It's not the wealthy's taxes. It's your taxes.
Exactly. But even, the final thought here is that even if you did take every penny from the wealthy, that top 1% they always talk about, it wouldn't do anything. It would run the government for like a week or something.
It's nothing.
And it would be a drop in the bucket. It wouldn't do anything to the deficit, but nobody knows that because nobody takes the time to put the. I think you maybe even have brought it up and put the figures on paper and talked about it on the show, if I recall correctly. And it doesn't even put a dent in what we owe or what we spend.
Your top 10%, I believe the numbers pay about 46% of the total taxes in this country. You're talking about that middle. That's where everything comes out of it when it comes to any of these projects. And so, again, so many of this stuff is all tied together. When they talk about this toxic masculinity, they talk about, men that need help. Part of it is, I just want the personal responsibility, and I just want you to keep your hand out of my pocket.
Leave me alone.
And if you tell me that what we're going to do is that when you do put your hand in my pocket, it's going to be about helping Americans, especially those that are going through disasters or any of those sort of circumstances. All right, I can get on board with you. Stop sending my money to a war you can't win in Ukraine.
They will never understand men because you summarized it and summed it up so well. I want to be left alone. That's it. That's the answer, and that's something that they cannot comprehend or understand. That's why they will never understand or get another dude to vote for them, or at least a regular dude. ABC is horrified, ABC News specifically, horrified at the thought of Donald Trump being reelected, and they see it as a real possibility, as they should. Their headline, Trump's campaign promise is, quote, elect me and I'll get revenge on the government, close quote. That's got my vote alone.
Why do they keep
right there?
Why do they keep writing headlines that make me go, that sounds great?
That's exactly right. But that's the thing. They want it to scare you. They want it to think, give you this feeling that Donald Trump's going to topple the government or overthrow the government. No, he's going to reform it. He's going to tear it down to the studs. And leading that charge, he continues to say, is Elon Musk. And if he did what he did if he can do it with the federal government, what he did with Twitter, again, count me in. I'm voting for that alone.
I get it. A lot of stuff for me goes back to COVID, but I want you to understand why. I had a 20-year career in sports talk that when everything was going on, I was pretty much vaporizing it on my own because I was like, this is ridiculous. This is stupid. Here's the problem with this. Here's what's going on.
And you were pretty alone.
It was like me,
very
it was like
few.
Clay Travis and like 3 other people. And we were the ones that kept bringing this stuff up. Here's why we should be playing football. Here's why you should be allowed to go to the beach. Again, all of it was out there, and we were fighting against a big, giant government machine. So that by the time we get to September of 2021, and we have completely ruined the withdrawal from Afghanistan, what occurred? Joe Biden got up in front of the nation during a radio address and said, all of y'all are going to get the vaccine or else you're going to get fired.
Yeah.
We're going to use the
gonna
power of OSHA and we're going to get rid of you. And that was probably the biggest moment where I said, this government needs to go. So when Donald Trump, and there's headline, is like, it's going to be a revenge against government, by God, I'm here for it.
Absolutely. Founding fathers told us that this day would come, a day where the government would become so heavy-handed because power and money corrupts. We are to that point, in my view. We are where the Founding Fathers told you we would go at some point. It's a republic if you can keep it.
And I believe, Tug, and I love that you put it in those terms, because I believe that is what this movement is really about. When Rhino calls it a movement, it was in part because you had a lot of people that started saying there is something wrong. This has gotten too big and too gross, and your government is too heavy-handed in your everyday life. Your federal government is supposed to be kind of like the backdrop. They're doing some things, but it's not affecting you on a regular basis. That's not how it is now. It's like your federal government is trying to find a way, how do we get involved with you every single day? And if you step out of line or you say the wrong thing, how do we find a way to punish you? Why do you think they keep bringing up, we need to be the ones of deciding what's misinformation?
Yeah, right. What, the disinformation board? Yeah.
The heart of what we've had, and this is where things have changed. When we went through the Sedition Acts in like the early, it was 1917, 1918, those were largely Republican-based responses to people that were anti-war. And now we've seen this entirety of this shift to, wait a minute, the party of free speech entirely is the Republican Party. Whether it's war or not, whatever you want to say, hey, it's wide open. Go for it. How have the Democrats become the party of censorship, being that like the basis of what they were for the longest time was you can say whatever you want, do whatever you want, and we're totally fine. Now it's turned into it threatens our power when it comes to globalism and communism. We can't have that.
We have to have the heavy hand. We have to control speech. We have to control every aspect of your life. Doesn't matter. And healthcare was, I think, the most significant thing that the government did to take away your liberty and your freedom, because there's nothing more important in life than your health care. And when they can control that, they control you. And they will continue to do that. ABC was horrified at the idea of getting rid of government agencies from this article I read, or even shrinking what they called the, quote, conspiratorial swamp. I'm like, RFK, man. I want to tear it down. I want to see Elon tear it down. And it's funny because all the people that would have never been considered a Trump Republican are all of a sudden in lockstep with Donald Trump. It's unbelievable.
I believe it was the New York Times that told me the swamp is all conspiracy.
Yeah.
And then a couple months later, why the swamp is good.
Yeah, it's exactly right.
Okay.
They spun it around on you. Love it. Oh, what a bunch of fools. Absolute fools. Morning Extra on Extra 106.3. CBS's Martha Radis wonders how many violent Venezuelan gangs in America is acceptable. We'll let you ponder that. And we'll answer the question for her. Next on the Morning Extra. Tug, Rhino, and Los until 10.
Atlanta radio legends, proud military vets, national network experts are all on Extra 106.3.
It's going to be an interesting couple of months.
With live and local shows in the morning and afternoon, and the biggest conservative hosts in the country throughout the day. We are always here with the latest news and opinions you need.
There's no chance if the media and the Department of Justice and social media are all against you.
No traffic interruptions, no former shock jocks, just Atlanta legends you've turned to for a generation. The conservative voice of Atlanta. Extra 106.3 FM and the Extra app.
You know the old expression, I love it when a plan comes together? Well, with our First Liberty Notes, this has been so true. Hello, I'm Brant Frost, founder of First Liberty Building and Loan. You hear about our family's company all the time right here on this station. For over 30 years, we've been the local lender who said yes when the big banks say no. A couple of months ago, we opened up our First Liberty Notes program to Main Street investors just like you, and the response has been just incredible. Folks from airline pilots to physicians to even pastors are now earning 8 to 13% interest rates while helping to fuel the growth of local small businesses. If you're a qualified investor with a minimum of $25,000, you too could be earning 8 to 13% interest. We'd love to have you join our First Liberty family today. Go to FirstLibertyGA.com and see if our First Liberty Notes are right for you. Go to FirstLibertyGA.com. That's FirstLibertyGA.com.
First Liberty Notes are not obligations of or guaranteed by any financial institution and are not secured by any collateral. They are not FDIC insured or guaranteed by any government agency. You could lose money. SEC accredited investor status must be verified. Securities not offered in any jurisdiction in which it is unlawful.
I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but the cold air is coming fast. That means a couple different things to me and you. Energy bills will be rising and company coming over for the holidays. Dan Watkins here with all Four Seasons garage, entry doors, and windows. It's time to get your house ready for the winter air and your holiday visitors. The good news is that we have you covered for every opening in your home. So call us today to set up a free estimate with one of our amazing sales consultants. They'll help you pick out the perfect garage door, front door, and windows for your home.
Lee Brandt Jewelry and Watch Company, where quality and value make the difference. Locally owned and located in Sandy Springs, offering you the finest selection of unique diamonds, sapphires, rubies, and emerald jewelry, as well as other fine gemstones. Lee Brandt Jewelry and Watches has been servicing Rolex watches for over 30 years, and their Rolex-trained watchmaker will service your watch in their state-of-the-art Rolex service center in their store. Lee Brandt uses only genuine Rolex parts, and their estimates are free. Drop by Lee Brandt in the Trader Joe's Shopping Center in Sandy Springs or visit LeeBrandt.com.
Hey, Jimmy, what's going on?
Oh, hey, Bobby. It's kind of embarrassing. I'm having deck problems.
You're having deck problems?
Hey, keep it down. It's embarrassing.
Now, look, there's plenty of guys in the neighborhood with deck problems. What's the matter with yours?
Well, it's small and old compared to yours.
All right, let's not make this a deck measuring competition. You just need to call Excavations. They've seen decks of all sizes, shapes, and colors. Good news is Excavations can build you a sweet new deck that you'll love to show off to your friends and neighbors. Don't worry, Jimmy. We're going to get you some big deck energy.
Hi, this is Candace with Excavations, and have I got a tip for you. Don't feel ashamed of your deck. Excavations can build an outdoor living space that you'll be proud of. And with our Exavision, we'll be able to show you your home's transformation before you even begin the work. Keep the HOA off your deck and give us a call today for decks, windows, siding, roofing, and more. Or visit us at exovations.com to get inspired.
Compact Outside, the all-electric EQB 250 SUV, is big on space, style, and smart ideas. With available seating for 7, a digital voice assistant, and MB navigation with electric intelligence, the EQB is born from a forward-thinking family and built for yours. Experience the all-electric 2024 Mercedes-Benz EQB 250 SUV today and lease one for just $419 per month for 36 months with $49.93 due at signing, exclusively from RBM of Atlanta in Sandy Springs. Contact RBM of Atlanta for details on this vehicle and many other models. And visit today to see how to qualify. Special lease rate available only to qualified customers exclusively from Mercedes-Benz Financial Service through RBM of Atlanta Sandy Springs through October 31st, 2024. Excludes tax, tag, title, and Georgia Lemon law fees. Contact RBM of Atlanta for details on this and other exciting offers. Visit rbmofatlanta.com or call us at 770-390-0700 for details.
The Morning Extra has you covered until 10 a.m. Then it's Glenn Beck, Clay Travis, and Buck Sexton at noon, and the Kimmer Show taking over at 3, only on Extra 106.3.
How many violent Venezuelan gangs taking over apartment complexes is acceptable to you? Let that sit in a little while. Just think about the absurdity of the question to begin with.
How many apartment complexes do Venezuelan gangs have to take over before I have an issue?
Before it's a big deal. How many are acceptable? Because when you listen to CBS's Martha Raddatz,
how many times does your house have to be broken into before you take an issue with it?
I would think one. I would think immediately. I'd be upset about even one. And I would think the people in Colorado would be just as upset about one. But that is the premise that CBS's Martha Raddatz came from. She argues with J.D. Vance. We'll let you hear it. She argues with J.D. Vance. Well, it's only a couple. You're acting like it's a whole bunch. It's only a couple apartment complexes that have been taken over by violent Venezuelan gangs. What's the problem?
So in Aurora, because this was such a bad look for the administration, they had their sheriff's department and their city officials come out and say, well, it's only a handful of apartment complexes.
The incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns. A handful of problems.
Only, Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border? Americans are so fed up with what's going on, and they have every right to be. And I really find this exchange, Martha, sort of interesting because you seem to be more focused with nitpicking everything that Donald Trump has said rather than acknowledging that apartment complexes in the United States of America are being taken over by violent gangs. I worry so much more about that problem than anything else here. We've got to get American communities in a safe space again. And unfortunately, when you let people in by the millions, most of whom are unvetted, most of whom you don't know who they really are, you're going to have problems like this. Kamala Harris, 94 executive orders that undid Donald Trump's successful border policies. We knew this stuff would happen. They bragged about opening the border, and now we have the consequences, and we're living with it. We can do so much better, but frankly, we're not going to do better, Martha, unless Donald Trump calls this stuff out. I'm glad that he did.
Stop using all of that common sense. There's only a handful of apartment complexes that have been taken over by violent Venezuelan gangs in America. What number? 404-741-1230. How many violent overtakes by Venezuelan gangs is okay with you this morning? 404-741-1230. Just curious.
That man is a Tomahawk cruise missile of accuracy.
Strategic.
Because he reshapes the argument, taking her words, handful, and make it into how ridiculous is the idea that one is too, that's fine. Two? Yeah, well, we can tolerate two. What about four? All right, you know
where does it end?
There's 100 complexes in the area. They only got 4 of them. It should be 0. And that's his entire point. And so to play into that discussion and to take her own words and point out how ridiculous it sounds that you're saying, well, it's only a handful. It's only a couple. You know what? When it comes to what happened in Athens, you know what? I know it was illegal, but it was only one young woman who was killed.
It's not really that bad, right?
It's one too many.
Yeah, of course it is.
Every time.
The unbelievable fact that Martha Raddatz was going to argue that it is okay that only a handful, that was the argument she was making, that a handful is okay. You know, why do you have to have 0? Because that's the point she was trying to make.
And that was the move that was done by the city of Aurora, recognizing how bad this looks. And when the home video started to get out there, people with their ring cams.
No kidding. And dudes taking sledgehammers and beating the locks off the doors.
With the long rifles and breaking into homes. And then to see that this is happening. I had a story from last week, and it didn't make the show. We're just way too packed up. But City of San Antonio was saying that there's a similar issue where they're breaking in to apartments that are, in this case, fortunately, there's no one living there. And then they put together fake rental opportunities for other immigrants. And basically, they're now in charge.
They're the tenant.
They're now the owner. Yeah. And so-and-so's now the tenant. And that's what they're doing.
Oh, yes, owner, tenant. I'm sorry. Yes.
They're building a criminal enterprise in your country using these tactics. And we're not supposed to wonder that that's a little bit bad just because it makes the administration look bad?
So if it were your home in your neighborhood and you had 2 homes, let's say it's a neighborhood of 500 homes, how many homes would it be okay if violent Venezuelan gangs, took over in your neighborhood? How many would be okay? I would love to present that question to Martha Raddatz and ask her, if it's your neighborhood, how many violent Venezuelan gangs taking over homes in your neighborhood would be okay with you? The answer would be 0.
And I'm across the board here. If you're living in a neighborhood with, let's say, 150 homes, how many need to be occupied by child sex predators for you to be concerned? 1? 1's enough, right? It's the same thing. You live in 150 homes. One of them in the neighborhood's being used for meth production. How many's too many? 1. All right, it's the same game. Venezuelan gangs, 1. 1 is too many.
That's exactly right.
Especially when they're not supposed to be here.
But not to Martha Raddatz.
No.
Because she said it's just a handful.
Because it makes Kamala Harris look bad. It makes Joe Biden look inept.
It makes her look like an idiot. To even suggest that 1 is okay.
They signed, and I know that J.D. Vance brings up 94 executive orders. You can go back to the first 17 orders that were signed on day 1 of the administration, and they essentially took apart border security on the very first day. Day 1, completely removed stay in Mexico. They changed the policy by which when we would apprehend people and send them back, we then decriminalized what they were doing, just allow them to flow right on in. Remember, the area that was hey, we're now doing something, is basically turned into, well, we're just not going to let them flow in the way they have been. They've got to go through a port of entry now. And then we'll let them all in.
Or we'll fly them in using the Border Patrol app.
Yes.
The CBP1 app. And then nobody will see the flow because they'll be coming into airports.
At night.
Nobody will even know.
Nobody will even pay attention.
And with Martha Raddatz, it will be, you know what? I'm willing to accept this because I know that's going to benefit my side. You know, she is going to vote for Kamala Harris. There's no doubt, without a doubt. She knows that they plan to let everybody vote regardless of legal status. They know that they're going to flip the way the House of Representatives is elected, because if you pack people into an area, you're going to have more representatives. That means more power in the House. She knows all this stuff. She's way smarter than I am.
It's a long play.
They know that's why she's okay with it, because she knows it benefits her in the long run, or at least her side. It doesn't really, but her side, the way she believes.
They will play on your compassion. Oh, look at these people. They have nothing. They've come to your country. We're a nation of immigrants. Do you have a problem with immigration? Look, it's hateful rhetoric. They will always say the same things to you. And the important thing you always need to tell people back is, what is the importance of citizenship? Because if you don't feel it's important, well, then you have no rights in this country. If you do, then you recognize that giving it away is a huge problem moving forward.
What happened in California will continue to happen for the next 3 weeks and potentially the next 4 years. After the Neil Bortz Report and a Fox News update, 7 o'clock hours brought to you by Van Sant Law. If you're in an accident, make the right call. VanSantLaw.com. This is the Morning Extra. Tug, Rhino, and Los. Until 10.
Time for the Bortz Report, exclusively on Atlanta's only conservative news and talk station, Extra 106.3.
Back in my Atlanta days, on 2 radio stations, I had a sponsor who became a dear friend. His name was Bob Taylor, and he was one of the most generous and intelligent men I knew. Sadly, he passed away, but he had a daughter, her name Marjorie Taylor Greene. And because of my affection for her father, I've refrained until now from commenting on her actions in Congress. Notice the use of the words "until now." Since her election, she has been an embarrassment to the Republican Party. Okay, to the sane branch of the Republican Party. Jewish space lasers. Do you remember that one? She is an essential part of the loony right conspiracy theory cabal. You can recognize some of these people with, well, for instance, chemtrails, the condensation trails you see in the sky behind jet engines at high altitude. That's not condensation. Those are chemicals that the government is spraying on us to control us. All of the theories behind the stolen election of 2020, all of which have been disproved, part of this cabal. And now Marjorie Taylor Greene is telling us that the Democrats in our government are controlling the weather, and they steered Hurricane Helene into eastern North Carolina, a very red vote area, to discourage those people or to occupy them so that they wouldn't have the time to vote for Donald Trump in the upcoming election. My friends, the Republican Party cannot survive these lunatics. The earth is not flat. Chemtrails are merely water vapor. Dominion voting machines did not intentionally malfunction, and our government isn't steering hurricanes. This nonsense is only doing damage to the Republican Party. Neil Bortz, Extra 106.3.
Have you heard about Sonder and their Georgia-based Medicare Advantage health plans? Sonder Health Plans is committed to revolutionizing healthcare, making it straightforward, personal, and affordable. Call them and ask if you qualify for their fantastic $400 grocery card offer and $0 premiums. They've even got their own radio show and podcast called Weekend Wellness, dedicated to keeping all Georgians healthy and happy at every age. Call 800-331-2928 or visit SonderHealthPlans.com. Sonder Health Plans is an HMO with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in Sonder Health Plans depends on contract renewal.
Tune into your new favorite show that's redefining the A to Z's of marketing, The Marketing Mad Men. We'll take you behind the scenes of successful campaigns and reveal the strategies that win. We're not just talking about marketing, we're making it happen. From viral content creation to leveraging AI for customer engagement, our experts bring you to the cutting edge of industry. This is your playbook for market dominance. Tune in and transform your approach with actionable tips that could skyrocket your ROI. The Marketing Mad Men every Saturday at 4 p.m. right here on Extra 106.3.
When it comes to protecting your assets and ensuring peace of mind, trust the expertise of Nelson Eldercare Law. Our Absolute Protection Trust is designed to provide unparalleled asset protection. Visit NelsonEldercareLaw.com to discover how our specialized services can safeguard your family's future and assets, offering you the assurance you deserve. NelsonEldercareLaw.com.
Why is it that only white colonists are the only ones ever held responsible for taking somebody else's stuff when every race, creed, color in this planet has done it 1,000 times?
Well, because we're the white people.
The Kimmer Show every afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. on Extra 106.3 and the Extra app. WFOM and W292EV Marietta, a Dickey broadcasting station. The 8 a.m. hour is brought to you by Central Heating and Air.
Coming to Israel's defense. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. The U.S. is going to send a missile defense system and American troops to help operate it, adding to what's the U.S. already done, helping thwart Iran's missile attacks this year.
This is one of the biggest attacks against Israeli positions since the conflict began more than a year ago. A low-level drones believed to have been launched from Lebanon, evading Israeli early warning systems. Its target was an army base in Binyamina. Hezbollah says it carried out the attack.
That's Fox's Jonathan Savage on the drone that was used by Hezbollah to get a military base, killing 4 Israeli soldiers, injuring dozens more. Now, Israel's also hit Hamas in Gaza again with more airstrikes. Palestinians say at least 24 people were killed, many at a school-turned-shelter. The Israelis say militants hide among the civilians. There are still more than 400,000 power outages in Florida after Hurricane Milton hit. President Biden toured damage in Tampa and St. Petersburg, pledging
$612 million to 6 new cutting-edge projects to support communities impacted by Hurricane Helene and Milton.
Milton's blamed for at least 21 deaths. Hurricane Helene killed more than 10 times that many. Florida up to North Carolina. Both Vice President Harris and former President Trump will campaign today in Pennsylvania, the biggest prize among the states considered toss-ups.
We are running as the underdog.
That was Harris in North Carolina. Trump urged people in Arizona to vote early.
Get everyone you know because we want to take back our country.
The man arrested at a Trump rally in California Saturday is free on bail on gun charges. Vem Miller found in an unregistered car with a fake plate and loaded weapons. Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco tells Fox this morning.
It's probably for the rest of the country, it's hard to believe that when we arrest people, they don't stay in jail. But that's a fact of life here in California. And those crimes that we arrested him for were misdemeanors.
Miller tells Fox News Digital he's a Trump supporter, had no intention of hurting the former president. America's listening to Fox News.
Life takes a toll on our bodies. No way around it. Whether it's sitting hours on end at your computer or working a physical job, over time, your body pays the price. There is, however, an effective way to turn back the clock on pain. Relief Factor. Developed by doctors, Relief Factor helps support your body's response to inflammation. The difference, instead of masking pain, Relief Factor helps eliminate it for good. And it's 100% drug-free. If the pains that come with living a full life are affecting you, do as so many others have. Turn back the clock on pain with Relief Factor. Their 3-week quick start is just $19.95, less than $1 a day. When you feel good, it's amazing how much more you get out of life. So visit ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. Try it for only $19.95. While we can't stop aging, not yet, we can stop pain. Turn back the clock with Relief Factor.
If the left made any sense, they would be right. Listen to Xtra 106.3.
There is no doubt something is brewing. It's hard to put your finger exactly on what it might be, but it's just an uneasy feeling about the safety of Donald Trump. And I would like to say from the beginning, I don't worship at the altar of Donald Trump. I refuse. He's a flawed man. Everybody is. Do I think he's clear and away the better choice for president of the United States? Yes. There's not even in the same stratosphere. But I don't pretend to act like the man's flawless or is perfect in any way. Good book tells me that's just impossible. I don't consider myself perfect. But I can tell you that his life is in danger. I think he knows that. He's got more security around him now since all of the assassination attempts, and the fact that a new one, potentially new one, popped up in California when he was at Coachella this past week, and it's confusing. All of it is confusing.
It's a strange story, and it keeps getting stranger.
What is the latest, Los?
So if you're not aware of what happened over the weekend, so Saturday at Coachella, there was a man named Vem Miller. He's 49 years old. He's been a journalist, independent journalist, and has basically been covering our politics for the better part of about 20 years. And he has been at the conventions. He was even at the RNC.
Right, and you see him in the reporter's pit, where they're looking over, kind of you can see the entirety of the arena that they were in Milwaukee. And then there's a point where he's walking next to Donald Trump Jr. And
posing for pictures.
Posing for pictures, yeah, all of that. Which is weird for someone in the media to begin with, because it's kind of a faux pas.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things that we don't really do. But whatever. Hey, he kind of seems like a bit, you might refer to it as a bit of a cleat chaser.
Yeah.
He likes being involved with the people he's covering. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. So Saturday, he apparently tried to get into the rally in California. Now, there were firearms in his truck.
Shotgun, loaded handgun, and high-capacity magazines.
So apparently, this then turned into, wait a minute, you don't have your proper credentials for this. And now it then turned into the sheriff saying, well, this was we think we have curtailed a possible assassination attempt. Although Vem Miller has been talking with as many people as he can, saying, I travel with my weapons. I've never shot one of them. And here's what I showed up and did. Here's the weird part. And this is where a guy, like I said, continues to get weirder and weirder and weirder. This is a guy who's made films about government corruption. Mm-hmm. Like, you can find his work on Rumble.
Yeah.
And so part of this turns into, all right, is this a weird set of circumstances that this happened and you got in trouble? Is this some sort of weird plant? That I don't really agree with.
Yeah, I don't think that either.
Or is this your government basically saying, we wanted to get him one way or another already anyway?
And that's what it keeps looking more and more like.
Yeah.
That they knew this guy was going to be. Now, if he's trying to get in with phony credentials, he already puts himself in a compromising position. So I'm not defending him by any means.
In fact, if I tried to get in with phony credentials, the next thing you should do is check me in my vehicle.
Of course. Absolutely. Because there's a reason that you're doing these things. There's just so many loose ends. It's hard to make a determination, even though the local folks on the ground, the sheriff out there, his name, Chad Bianco, he said on Sunday that we feel like we thwarted a third assassination attempt. So he feels that there was something to it. There's no reason for me to discredit him or have questions about him. I usually, most of the time, trust the boots on the ground, the folks, like in Butler, Pennsylvania, when all that craziness came down. I trusted the people on the ground more than I trusted the federal agencies that are corrupt, that are compromised. So give me the people on the ground just doing an honest day's work. That's who I usually listen to, and I did immediately in this story too.
So this is also interesting. If you remember the Bundy versus United States, that was an issue where, if you remember back in 2014, you had some ranchers that were in a standoff with the federal government over grazing lands.
I do vaguely remember this. Yes. Yeah. Let me look this up. Hang on.
So this guy, Vin Miller, ended up doing a movie about this that recently got out there, and it really paints the federal government in a poor light. Basically saying, here's how the deep state operates, here's how they go after regular Americans, and this all went to the courts. But that is where you have some of these other journalists that are pointing out, this man has long been a target of the federal government. It's like, he is a Trump supporter. He is on this team. And so them trying to make him out to be some potential assassin is more along the lines of the state wanting to get back at this guy.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, that's what he's saying.
Yeah. And it wouldn't surprise me at all if it turns out to be the case. But there's just so much that is unknown right now that it's hard to make a real determination. So probably wait and see mode is where you should be. Where you should stay.
This is either going to turn into and it's fortunate that if you do have someone who when we say fake credentials, sometimes you'll have a situation where, for instance, we've gotten into sporting events by, let's say, Joe using my credential. Mm-hmm. You know, that's part of what you do. Sometimes it's somebody else's credential. Right. It's, I didn't get a credential. You got a credential. Can I borrow your credential? I'll use the credential to get in.
Because 99% of the time, it's not like they scan them. Or if they do, it's a valid credential, so it doesn't matter. But it's not ever like they take your credential, look at the picture, look at you.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people coming in and out.
Magnifying glasses.
That's exactly right. They just flash it, you flash it, they scan it, you're in.
And so, considering the heightened scenario of having 2 assassination attempts on Donald Trump, I'm appreciative that the sheriff's department there made it a point to, is this your credential? Is this an official credential? At some point, the alarm was set off of, all right, we got to look more into this guy. And it comes across to me, having done this game before, of using a credential or giving my credential to somebody else, like, you didn't have the right credential, and it set off all right, we got to find out what else this guy's got going on.
And then the name gets run. The feds go, ooh.
and they check your car, and you are armed.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's, again, this is one of those wait and sees, but it does, everything's starting to point, or it seemingly
circumstances.
The circumstance, there you go. That's the best way.
I think these are circumstances based on the fact that there's been 2 assassination attempts. So anything, in my opinion, that sets off the local authorities to check on somebody, good.
Yeah, good for them, and good for them for doing the right thing.
And at least we've improved from dudes walking around with a rangefinder, let's not talk to him or detain him.
Like 3 hours.
To now, it's the guy has a credential, it doesn't match what he should have. Okay, let's go look into this guy. And that's where we're at in the span of 2 months.
And when he goes back to Butler, the roof that was completely too sloped for the Secret Service to be on, all of a sudden they're on.
That woman claimed that it was too sloped to safely get on.
Yeah, right. But
she told this to Congress.
Yeah, 2 months later, they're Secret Service agents.
So good. At least our level of security is improving.
We're progressing. But how regressive is it that we had to get to this point to actually turn the corner and go back in the right direction?
And Tug, how disgusting is it? How weird is it that we are now becoming numb to the fact that over the next 4 years, with Trump in office or out of office, I believe this is going to continue as far as crazy people taking shots at him or trying to assassinate him.
At every opportunity.
If we've had 3 assassination attempts in the better part of 45 years. We've had 2 in 2 months. If this had been a legitimate one, and I don't believe it to be so, but again, I'll go with whatever the authorities say here.
We'll wait and see.
Can you imagine we've had 4 in the span of 45 years and 3 in 2 months?
Yeah.
That's the level of crazy that our politics is getting to.
And the Democrats, of course, take no responsibility for calling Donald Trump Hitler and a threat to democracy and a threat to the country.
Just comparing him to one of the worst tyrants in the history of the world.
Who, when in World War II, we sent our entire military force after him. So would it surprise you that somebody would say, oh my gosh, if he's that bad and they're not sending the military after them, then I'll go get him myself?
There's also an aspect of this, and part of it is our own, like we documented it last week. There's so many health issues in this country that if you're telling me we have an inordinate amount of crazy people in this country, I completely believe you. With drugs, mental health, otherwise, we have a lot of them. We also have a lot of lonely people in the way that our community has evolved with social media and the way that people now contact each other. Like, I have friends of mine, good friends of mine. I can't tell you the last time we talked on the phone. I can tell you I texted them a couple days ago. Yeah, I have people from my wedding that I have texted more than have had a phone conversation with in the last 5-10 years.
Sure.
Like, that's just the nature of what happens. So when these people get to this point and it turns into nobody recognizes me, how can I be recognized? Sometimes it turns into, with their level of crazy, well, why not go shoot Hitler?
Especially with today, the importance of social media. And people are so focused on followers and likes and how much attention can I get? What can I do for more attention? This is all I care about, is being famous or pseudo-famous, I suppose. I can see, I don't agree with it. I'm not chasing likes. I'm not chasing followers. I don't care if you follow me or not. Could not care less, because I don't focus on social media. My focus is on my family, work, a horrendous contracting job in the house right now.
Well, then you're properly grounded. You have these other, even
my dog,
a contracting job going wrong in your house is something for you to work through and work towards and get to an end. Imagine when you don't have any of these things.
Gosh, I know, man. And this one's so frustrating because you give them half up front and it's a big number to begin with.
He's
and
still upset. I love it.
Well, but you're stuck with it. It's not like you can get out. It's not like you can just say, okay, we're gonna, because you already paid them half. It's the worst. Anyway, I'm sorry. That would be
I just from rebuilding a home in Florida. Just understand that when anybody asked for money up front, it was negatory.
Yeah, it's negative.
We will do this as a process.
We've never done. This is the first big job like this we've ever done. So it has been eye opening for me, because I may look you in the eye, shake your hand, and if I tell you I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. You know, and that's not the way.
Let me tell you the
operates.
part that'll burn you. And hopefully this is not what you have going on. This is much more disaster oriented. So, by the way, if you have family members that are dealing with any of this stuff in
North Carolina,
South Georgia,
Tennessee,
North Carolina, Tennessee,
and even some of South Carolina that gets often left out.
Anybody wants anything up front? The answer is no. We're going to do this in stages, because what happens is the price of everything in an area starts to rise. And so you'll be quoted, well, hey, I need, let's say, $50,000 up front. And it's going to be a $100,000 project, and you pay that $50,000. What starts to happen is that person ends up using that money on a number of different projects.
Yeah, not just yours.
And so now,
Robin Peter to pay Paul.
And so suddenly, when the money slows down on another project, suddenly yours isn't being taken care of either. Mm-hmm. And that's the nature of how that plays out. And so make sure, find reputable people. And
I thought I did.
Do it in phases.
I did.
You just completed the work. What is that going to cost? Okay, here's that money. It's like, that's just from me dealing with this a few times. That's how you do it.
Yes. Lord. Anyway,
that way you're not spending time on your radio show lamenting about how burnt you are with their contractor.
Oh man, I'm telling you, it's something else. It's something else. Why can't Southern exteriors be Southern interiors? That way, I know they would do the same thing that I would do. But
feed me some word salad, man.
Yes, well, that was where I was headed next, because Kamala, she is the queen of the word salad. Matter of fact, she was out in Arizona, and I don't know how she expects to get votes when this is her demonstration, her explanation, her speech to you to get you all fired up.
We are all here together because we love our country. We love our country.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was talking with some folks recently about the importance of understanding the duality, frankly, that exists in terms of our democracy. You know, as your vice president, I've now met over 150 world leaders, presidents, prime ministers, chancellors, and kings. And when we, representing the United States, walk in those rooms, traditionally we've been able to walk in those rooms, chin up, shoulders back, with the earned and self-appointed authority to talk about the importance of democracies, rule of law. But I say to a room of role models, here's the thing about being a role model. When you're a role model, folks watch what you do to see if it matches up to what you say. And I tell you, because I have traveled the country recently, including the many, many trips that
So the point is, she goes down this meandering road.
Yes.
And she says nothing whatsoever. And I have to imagine that people that are there, I mean, they're clearly supporters or they wouldn't be there, so they're giving her the benefit of the doubt. But when they hear this, it has to enter their mind, no different than it does me or you. What the hell is she saying?
I've talked about how Joe Biden is the kid in the pool, that you see him get in the pool and he's not the strongest swimmer and you wonder if he's going to get to the other side. All right, this is different because it's not like she's not coherent. It's not like I go, wow, she's suffering from some sort of mental issue. That's Joe. That's Joe Biden. Hers is more along the lines of, you're just swimming in circles and you're not getting anywhere.
That's right.
Like,
Yeah.
You're a strong swimmer. You're just swimming in circles. And her delivery, I think, is the part that gets people because
it tails off.
And she slows everything down
To make it sound serious.
as if you can't understand it. You know, one of the things that's been appreciative of Donald Trump is that, man, he tells you way too much truth. Like, that's the problem. Like, at times he just blurts out things. He's going to tell you all this sort of truth. But he speaks to people very directly.
No question.
And I think that's the part that people appreciate. They don't feel like they're being painted some sort of crazy story where she talks about the duality and the importance and democracy.
In terms
you're
of,
here because of a lack of democracy.
But in terms of is a filler word that she puts in there a lot too.
Yes.
That's the one that I keep flagging. In terms of, because she says it over and over and over. It's like her whole statement is filler words to fill time to convince somebody that she's capable of doing the job. And anybody that listens to her knows that she's not. And her track record tells you that she's not. The only people that see this, hear this, and go, yep, I'm behind her, are the washed in the blood. I need to be good, in good standing. That way I get to move along and everybody else is going to the back of the bus.
It would be significantly better if Tim Walz was doing this sort of work because when it comes to public speaking, he's considerably stronger than she is. The problem is he's constantly fibbing. And that's a nice way of saying he's making up stories that don't apply. And then when he gets called on it, he looks around like, well, I'm
a knucklehead.
I use bad grammar.
Yeah.
He actually said he used that had nothing to do with what you said.
Yeah, right. You just
grammar
lied.
does not apply to this case.
Right.
And so
you may have used bad grammar while lying.
This is the idea of when you talk about balancing a ticket. You have the raging bull that is Donald Trump. You have this assassin in J.D. Vance where they complement one another in these ways. The problem is that for the issue that you have with Kamala Harris, the problem is she's supposed to have somebody who's that balancing act with her that speaks to the men, that's respectable in terms of you go, that's a dude, and who isn't lying to you. Because if there's something that we all have this lingering PTSD about with this administration is how many times you've told me things are good when I know they're not. You've been lying to me in the interest of politics. I'm just looking for somebody to speak directly to me.
And that's why Donald Trump is gaining so much ground. Because whether you like it or not, as you said, he speaks the truth. He's going to tell you the way it is, good, bad, or indifferent. And whether it's good for his campaign or not, he's going to tell you the truth.
And granted, the other side, the news media, the CNNs and the MSNBCs of the world will tell you about how Trump is lying. And you know what they call Trump lying? I had the most fantastic economy in world history. He did that. I mean, he's speaking in these grandiose terms that you can't say whether it's, I can't go, wow, yeah, it was the greatest in the history of the world. But I knew it was good.
It's been the best in about 20 years.
But this is how he speaks, and they call those lies, not that inflation. It's actually under control.
And you are a dummy for not knowing it.
That's a lie.
8 o'clock hour is brought to you by Central Heating and Air Conditioning, your Atlanta carrier expert. 770-GET-HEAT. CentralHeat.com is the website. Trump wants the best and the brightest coming to America, but only the right way. Next on the Morning Extra, Tug, Rhino, and Los until 10. Then the Glenn Beck program, Clay Travis and Buck Sexton. The biggest show in all of conservative media on 500 radio stations, including here in Atlanta on Extra 106.3. And then the local afternoon show with the Kimber, Pete, and Flounder. The Kimber Show, 3 until 6.
Remember that. It was Democrats who were the slave owners. It was the Democrats that voted against the Civil Rights and the Voting Rights Act. But everybody seems to forget that.
The Kimmer Show every afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. on Extra 106.3 and the Extra app.
My name is Jamie High, and I have worked for Bruce Hagen for 14 years. Why do I work for Bruce? Because he truly cares. He cares about me, he cares about my family, and he cares about each and every one of his clients. Family is important to him, and he never makes me choose between my family and work. He values me as an employee, but also as a person. At our firm, we are all family, and I wouldn't want it any other way. I am Jamie, and I've worked for Bruce Hagen for 14 years because he's the best. Hagen-law.com.
Millions of guys suffer from erectile dysfunction. That's 1 in 4 men. And I can tell you, I'm one of them.
If you or someone you know suffer from ED, Peyronie's disease, or PE, here's 38-year emergency room doctor and founder of Total Body Therapy of Georgia, Dr. Eric Deal.
Patients who enter my office are often frustrated, hopeless, depressed, and embarrassed. I understand the problem, and I'm going to help you fix it. There are lots of competitors that don't have the credentials that I have. When you go to other clinics, you're not going to see a board-certified physician with the experience that I have. When you come to our clinic, you're going to see me. There's just not one therapy that can solve these complex issues. I'll do a complete history and physical prior to any treatment that we use. Take it from me, Dr. Deal. When it's not hard, it's really hard.
Call Dr. Deal for your free one-on-one evaluation and resolve your ED, Peyronie's, or PE issues. Total Body Therapy of Georgia, 404-777-1911, 404-777-1911, online at stopmyed.com.
Get ready for unfiltered conversations on The Janelle King Show, where we tackle the topics that you won't hear at your family gatherings, but they're absolutely crucial for a strong republic. Don't miss us live every Saturday at 3 p.m. and every Sunday at 9 a.m. right here on Extra 106.3. But if you can't tune in, that's okay. You can catch new episodes every Tuesday on the Podcast Park or wherever you prefer to get your podcasts. Join us for these discussions, and I can't wait to meet you there.
I enjoy a good night's sleep, and I like to breathe while I'm sleeping. My wife appreciates that, too. That's why I wear a CPAP. You want the right machine. You want expert advice. You want all the supplies that go with it. You get it all at CPAPs, etc. in Alpharetta. Machines, masks, tubing, filters, cleaning supplies, all of it, and they ship nationwide. Walk-ins, by the way, are welcome. CPAPs, etc. Alpharetta, CPAPSETC.com.
If you're experiencing low energy, brain fog, or bloating, then your body might need a detox. Active Liver from New Nordic makes it easy to help your liver to detox your body all year long without major changes to your diet or lifestyle.
Tune into your new favorite show that's redefining the A to Z's of marketing, The Marketing Madmen. We'll take you behind the scenes of successful campaigns and reveal the strategies that win. We're not just talking about marketing, we're making it happen. From viral content creation to leveraging AI for customer engagement, our experts bring you to the cutting edge of industry. This is your playbook for market dominance. Tune in and transform your approach with actionable tips that could skyrocket your ROI. The Marketing Madmen, every Saturday at 4 p.m. right here on Extra 106.3.
Oh, man, look at my backyard. Looks like a tornado met a hurricane in a desert. I'm going to tell her to turf off. Or maybe you'd rather turf on with ATL Turf Co., the Southeast leading turf installer. Whether you'd like a new football field, putting green, or have us create the perfect maintenance-free backyard of your dreams, find ATLTurfCo.com. Make your yard great again. Visit ATLTurfCo.com and see what we've created for customers like you in the Southeast. ATLTurfCo.com. And no more yard cackling.
Extra 106.3 listeners are falling in love with Nucky's Hoagies in Roswell.
Me and my wife now find our favorite sandwich place. That food over there was great.
Yeah, those rolls are so soft and sweet. I mean, it was just melt in your mouth. It was, and the steak was tender and juicy and flavorful. I can't say enough about it. It was very, very impressive.
It was so good.
Make Nucky's Hoagies in Roswell on Woodstock Road your new favorite spot for lunch or dinner. Nucky'sHoagies.com.
The stories that matter to you. These are your Georgia headlines. Presented by RBM of Atlanta, your Mercedes-Benz connection since 1964.
Good morning. Here are your headlines for today, Monday, October 14th. Former President Donald Trump will make his way into Forsyth County tomorrow as he will be taking part in a Fox News town hall that'll be focused on women's issues as he tries to narrow the gap when it comes to women between himself and Vice President Kamala Harris. Speaking of trying to narrow the gap, currently you have the Democrats looking to narrow the gap with men, as former President Bill Clinton was in rural Georgia doing a men's outreach, again, kind of with the shades of the Bubba's for Bill sort of era from the 90s. From NFL action, the Atlanta Falcons are now 4-2 on the season as they get a 38-20 win over the Carolina Panthers in Charlotte yesterday. The Falcons do sit atop the NFC South with a 4-2 record.
Tug, Rhino, and Los on the Morning Extra on Extra 106.3. And I don't know if you've been keeping up with Major League Baseball, but you got Cleveland Guardians at New York Yankees tonight, first game of the ALCS.
Sorry, sir. That's the Cleveland indigenous people.
What did I say?
You called them the Guardians.
Oh, yes, that's right. Well, yes.
On Indigenous Peoples Day, you called them the Guardians? Damn it, Tug.
I feel like I've insulted
the Cleveland Indigenous Peoples.
That's right. Absolutely.
You know, it's Columbus Day, but
yes, I know it's in national. Yes, that's right. 200 cities, I think, in the country recognize Indigenous People Day instead of
Columbus Day.
Yes. Yeah, and we found out over the weekend that Columbus was Jewish too. That was a big story.
Yeah, there's a what was it from his remains and showed him back to a particular Jewish sect. So it's like, okay.
Yeah, all right. It was a fascinating thing, even though they continually take down his statues and all that sort of thing. But in game one of
now you can call it anti-Semitic when they go at him.
Yes, right. Absolutely.
See? Which deflector shield do you want to use today?
That's exactly right. Game one of the NLCS had Dodgers. What's that?
I tried
to watch or tried to care.
It was 3-0 so quickly, and then 6-0, and I just had to check out. That game drove me to watch a very bad Sunday night football game.
You're like, I would rather watch bad football than bad baseball.
I would rather watch bad football than watch the Dodgers or the Mets win.
Yeah, I don't like either one.
I was kind of hoping that a hole would open up and just scarf them both.
It's just the whole stadium collapse.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's like when Auburn plays Alabama. That's kind of what I hope happens, but it never has. But it was funny because I was asking Jacob, I was like, who are you cheering for? He was like, the Mets. I'm going to cheer for the Mets. He's like, I'm tired of seeing the Dodgers win.
Kind of a lesser of two evils, maybe?
Yeah, I think that's what he's going with. But
I mean, I get the Dodgers. The Dodgers don't really have a World Series since, was it 1988?
88, I believe, yeah.
Because
Fernando Valenzuela, wasn't he on that team?
And this is what makes people crazy, was the Hershiser's team. Yeah, I don't count the 2020.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I totally forgot about that. They actually,
and you should.
Yeah. Because it was
the antiseptic, empty stadium,
so dumb.
No crowd, no travel. We only do it in one place.
So dumb.
Didn't have an issue with your pitching, again, because of the structure by which they did it. So that and LeBron's bubble title with the Lakers, I don't count that one either.
His Mickey Mouse championship.
That's right. Do not count it. I'm glad, NBA guy Joe, you look at it the same way I do, because you walk into any barbershop and you ask if that's a title, they'll flat out tell you that it's not a title.
No. I will say, though, those were some of the most fun basketball games I've ever watched in the bubble. They were a blast.
It was. You know what I enjoyed?
TJ Warren dropping 50.
I didn't care for that. You know what I cared for? The videos of watching guys try and kind of operate the bubble, because they would basically go to like each other's rooms and like yell down from So like Boban, you know who Boban is? Boban, it was in like the third John Wick film. He's a 7'6" gigantor. And Boban kind of has a little bit of an acting future. He's just kind of a fun dude. He would go and catcall guys like, Ty, come out, it's Boban. It's Boban.
With that weird accent.
So
That's
it was
so
funny.
good.
That was my favorite part about the bubble. I didn't like much of anything else about it.
Who are y'all cheering for? The indigenous people versus the Yankees?
Cleveland.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Cleveland.
Yeah. Well, I say that. I can't say that real loud because my wife's a Yankees.
But you know what
fan.
you want to watch? The worst of the worst would be New York versus New York.
Yes, the Subway Series.
The coolest option TV-wise is probably Dodgers and Yankees.
Yeah.
But I am much more in favor of let's see what that indigenous team can do.
Yeah, we'll see. Who knows?
Can I have the name back? Cleveland Indigenous People, if we do it that way?
Yeah, I mean,
we go the logo and everything else?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, I just want to know what the rules are.
I saw an interesting article about the Washington football team or whatever they're called now.
By the way, Tony Romo did call them the Redskins yesterday.
Oh, my goodness.
Because I don't know. That was the team he played against from like 2004 to 2016.
But that's the thing. Like, I saw this interesting article about the lawsuit against the Washington football team to bring back.
Get the name back.
Yeah. And because of the person that not only was the inspiration for the logo that they say is racist, but also the Native American who actually did the artwork for it. I mean, there's just such a lineage of respect that went into that from the very beginning. And then, of course, it was shot down by liberal Catholics.
Well, 2020, I mean, that made you remake everything. Right?
Everything. Anything that you did not like, you just say it was bad or racist or sexist or whatever.
I don't know how we had so many people roll over and show their bellies during that time period. Because I wasn't doing it.
No, by no means. And I was glad the Braves stood up the way they did.
I was like, this is all haywire. In fact, the next year, in 2021, I went to the opening series that the Braves had. And at the time, the stadium was supposed to be a third full. And then they surveyed all of us afterwards and wanted to know who you vote for, the kind of money you make, how'd you feel about the stadium safety. And I think by 2 weeks later, they're like, stadium full.
Full, that's exactly right. It only took 2 weeks. And that was them being, incremental about it. They were like a third full, half full. 2 weeks later, we're wide open.
Well,
Let's go.
They do have some people that work for them that are very cognizant when it comes to the politics, and their politics are largely different than what I would say my politics are. And so they get a say in these things. So, for instance, like when the foam tomahawks disappeared, there was somebody who was responsible for this. I know who it is. With that being said, the audience, your regular Braves audience, does not care for what that man's politics is. And so they were ready to be back in that stadium as quickly as possible, and they want that foam tomahawk back.
Absolutely. They're never getting that back. It will never, ever, ever, ever come back. I guarantee. I would put my mortgage on it.
They will never market it to you with the Braves logo ever again. You got to bring your own or do your own thing.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's funny. It's all about knowing your audience. Right? It'd be like if we cranked up one morning and we just started talking about liberal politics. Like, that's not at all what our audience believes in or wants to hear about.
I could do it.
Oh, right. Anybody could do it.
I just have to take away, what is it from, there's a movie, As Good As It Gets. And they ask Jack Nicholson's character, Melvin Udall, it's like, how do you write so well? How do you write like a woman? He says, I write just like a man, but I take away reason and accountability. And once and then at that point, it's all on. It's like, if I just took away reason and accountability, I could speak liberalism all day.
Dude, I think anybody could. All you have to, that and just regurgitate what you hear on 96% of the news media. If you regurgitate that, you'd be in the clear. You'd be celebrating.
Well, you don't understand. That's Trump's fault.
Of course it is.
It's his fault, Tug.
CMT, I don't know if you heard about this. CMT, they fired the biggest majority of every employee at CMT.
I did not know this.
Yeah, it happened last week, maybe week before. It's been like 10 days or whatever. And me and a buddy of mine who is in Nashville and in the country music industry and does well for himself, he was like, you know why that happened? And I was like, well, yeah, like they quit focusing on country music and like it's mainly, anytime you watch it, it's mainly just garbage reality shows.
I've seen a lot of reality shows.
Yeah, it's just rehashes. It's just like MTV for the most part. And he was like, yeah, there's that. He was like, but they have no idea who their audience is. They program to them.
That's interesting.
Meaning the same folks that you're talking about over across the street, they program to them. and it turns everybody that actually tunes in for country music off, so they don't support it. And now, 5-10 years later, it's gone. I mean, they are like, we're a skeleton crew, so are they at CMT, and that's a national brand.
Knowing your audience and what they want to hear and who they are is extremely important. Like, we still talk about, we are a year and a half removed from Bud Light, who's now, like, have you seen what they've been doing? It's now Shane Gillis.
Yeah.
It's now football-oriented again. It's now dude talk.
What'd you call it, boobs and beer?
That's right. Did you? I know you didn't watch a lot of NFL football.
Jackpot.
But they had a very funny one over the weekend. Comedy is coming back to Bud Light. Remember, we're no longer doing the Dylan Mulvaney stuff of here's what a man-woman's supposed to look like. But it was a university campus, and it was a professor who basically said, hey, we've got some academic issues. If you admit, then we'll give you a beer. And everybody starts coming in and starts telling stuff about other guys.
Rags each other out to give beer.
So-and-so's been working on karate ever since this girl put him in a headlock. And he's like, hey, and then gives him a beer.
I love it.
So the comedy's coming back.
It's like Saturday Night Live a little bit.
Know your audience.
Yeah.
Your audience is very important. One of the things that we're dealing with here on this radio station is, you'll notice, where are the Kamala Harris ads? Okay? She has not been moving in any of the battleground states with any ads. TV, radio, everything.
Nothing.
It is
Websites,
nothing is moving.
When you watch a YouTube video.
This is why they're now changing their plan, their strategy, because the numbers in Georgia have only moved in the direction of Trump. And so when you're wondering, like, why was my app 90% Kamala Harris and now suddenly it's not? Like, granted, it ain't great for our station. It ain't great for anybody in the marketplace who sells political media. But at the same time, understand that is where it's not working. It's a benefit to you. Our audience has basically, because of backing Trump, you're suddenly having their money moving on to other places.
Right, because they know it's not moving the needle. It's not making
not in
hill of
Wisconsin,
beans.
not in Michigan, not in Pennsylvania. They're having to rethink everything they're doing and paying for right now.
Hell of a time to do that.
Yes. When you're talking about 3 weeks away,
21 days,
21 days away, and they're going, why is none of this working? So now it's turned into, all right, how do we try maybe some TV ads, maybe some celebrities, maybe we try and reach out to
maybe we get Bill Clinton down in South Georgia and people will mistake him for Joe Biden.
Please tell the audience about that. I hadn't even seen that until you brought it up.
Yeah. So Bill Clinton is in South Georgia campaigning for Kamala. He is in McDonald's, right? And back to what Lois was saying in a different segment earlier. He was like, it's the old, Bubba's for Bill, just average everyday folks for Bill Clinton.
That's right.
So they're trying to rehash that for Kamala. Kind of the same thing that we're doing with Barack Obama.
Just regular people that need representation.
Right. And so they send him to South Georgia. He walks in to a McDonald's in South Georgia, and he's wearing like a Team USA, big USA across the back. That's the first dead giveaway that this is artificial, that this is manufactured, because the Democrats despise the USA and would never do that. So they go in. He's standing there, and they can tell because there's obviously a detail around him. There's a camera on him. They can tell he's somebody. And this lady that is ringing him up, getting him his coffee and his, bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit or whatever he's ordered. Like, you can tell. She's like...
She's got a happy face. Like, I know this person.
Are you Joe Biden? It's the first question out of her mouth. And the lady next to him is like, no, it's not. And he said, I'm Bill. He's like, oh, it's Bill Clinton. Oh, good. It's like this celebration, and they figured out who it was because... They're not dialed into daily politics working at McDonald's.
And I'm really glad that this woman at one point thought all white politicians must be the same one. I was like, yes. But finally, somebody who made that same mistake, and you go, told you guys.
It happens to you too.
It happens to everybody.
Yeah. But if it had happened to you and I, we'd have been the most racist, sexist.
Right. Oh, look, he's bigoted. It's like, no.
Devils.
I just don't recognize people right off the jump all the time.
Quickly, I want to get into this just for a second, because Trump is always labeled as someone who is anti-immigration, which could not be further from the truth. He absolutely wants the best and the brightest to come to America.
What do you say to those who immigrated here to this country the right way? What do you say to those people that are here in this country?
So you have a lot of people that came in and they went through 10, 12 years of work, and I think they're being very unfairly treated. They've worked so hard, and they're so proud, and they love the country. And we have people coming in, many people coming in and do a good job, and many people shouldn't be on that line because they're dangerous people. We have a lot of dangerous people, and we're going to take care. We want we understand we want to have strong borders, but we want people to come into our country legally, and it'll happen. We're going to have a lot of people come in, but they're going to come in legally, and that's the way it has to be done. We all know that. I think everybody knows that.
Yeah, I think everybody wants it and everybody knows it. Everybody is fine with people wanting to come to America, but it is all about coming the right way, coming through the legal process, just like you have to follow every other law when you get here. Well, I guess you don't have to anymore as long as Kamala Harris and Joe Biden are in office. But that's the principle. That's the idea, is that you have to do things the right way. And I'm glad Donald Trump said it, because they can no longer say, oh, he's anti-immigration. No, he's anti-illegal immigration. If you do it the right way, like so many people have, who are probably the most staunch supporters of doing things the right way.
If you hold your country in high regard, remember, that's the difference here. Some people look at it as it's an evil place. It was founded in an evil way. That's why we have Indigenous Peoples Day today. Then you don't value the idea of citizenship here. If you hold your country in high regard, then you very much are saying, I want more people here, but give me the best and the brightest and make it easier for them to get legal status here.
Tim Walz is an example of what they think men should be, not what they really are. Next on the Morning Extra on Extra 106.3, Tug, Rhino, and Los until 10. The Kimmer Show is only on Extra 106.3 every weekday afternoon on your drive home.
If she wins, it's the United States. It's the end of what we knew it as, what we grew up in.
We're not going to take it.
Because there's 100 million of us that won't live under that. What she's going to try and do, we're not going to live under that. There will have to be a partition at some point if she wins, because no one's going to live under that.
The Kimmer Show, every afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. on Extra 106.3 and the Extra app.
Been a little bit cooler than it has been, meaning we're easing our way into fall. And that means leaves are falling off the trees. And if you're like us, gosh, our whole property is trees. So there's lots of leaves. I've blown them off over and over and over again. I even climb out the second story windows of our house, and our front porch has the biggest, and I always blow that off with the blower or whatever. You can say goodbye to clogged gutters. Premium gutters and gutter cover solutions, and you'll have that peace of mind enjoying a home that is protected from water damage year-round. For a complimentary consultation, and while they're up there looking at the gutters and giving you the estimate there, they'll take a look at the roof too. Because with all the crazy weather we've had, all the heavy winds and rains, has your roof been compromised? Do you already know it is because you see a little brown dot on the ceiling? You better get that taken care of. There is nothing worse for your home than water inside it. And we've had a lot of water in the last few weeks. So make sure you reach out to the folks at Southern Exteriors. They'll give you that complimentary consultation, and you can safeguard your home for the long run and get those gutter covers, get the home protection that you need. All you have to do is call them at 8779-SOUTHERN. 8779-SOUTHERN. Protect your home with Southern Exteriors. SouthernExteriors.co is their website. It is SouthernExteriors.co.
What's up, Atlanta? It's Ben Burnett, host of the Weekend Ben Burnett Show. Each and every weekend, right here on Extra 106.3, we unpack all the week's events. We talk about all the issues with a local Atlanta-based flavor. You can catch me each and every weekend, Saturdays at 2 and Sundays at noon. If you ever miss an episode, you can go to the podcast park or wherever you download all of your content, and I'll be right there. Thanks for listening to the Ben Burnett Show, proudly brought to you by Butler Snow.
Foundation repair isn't pretty, but at Atlanta Ramjack, we make it easy. If you notice any cracks in your foundation, they need to be addressed as soon as possible to reduce additional costs that come with the repair. Why call us? Foundation repair is all we do. We have highly trained estimators that will thoroughly evaluate your home and only recommend what is needed. If you are experiencing foundation problems, please contact us at ramjack.com/Atlanta or call us at 770-502-8881.
Tune into your new favorite show that's redefining the A to Z's of marketing, The Marketing Madmen. We'll take you behind the scenes of successful campaigns and reveal the strategies that win. We're not just talking about marketing, we're making it happen. From viral content creation to leveraging AI for customer engagement, our experts bring you to the cutting edge of industry. This is your playbook for market dominance. Tune in and transform your approach with actionable tips that could skyrocket your ROI. The Marketing Madmen every Saturday at 4 p.m. right here on Extra 106.3.
As the longest continually operating franchise in Major League Baseball, the Atlanta Braves have plenty of history to share with fans. Tours of Truist Park are offered year-round, and take guests behind the scenes to areas normally off limits during games. With artifacts and exhibits distributed throughout the ballpark, it's a definite must for any Braves or baseball fan. Visit Braves.com/tours to purchase your tickets today. And did you know that along with exclusive tours around the ballpark, you can also host a private event at Truist Park? Corporate meetings, trade shows, team building events, holiday parties, rehearsal dinners, you name it. Truist Park can host it. Their dedicated staff is sure to bring your vision to life. Whether you're looking for a large space or something more intimate for your next event, there's a venue to accommodate your needs. Visit Braves.com/events to see more details. Atlanta Braves Baseball. We are Braves Country.
The end of the year is closing in, and with it, another tax year comes to an end. As you prepare to file your taxes, consider the efficiency of your tax strategy. Have you maximized your IRA and Roth contributions? Do you have an RMD strategy in place? Are you making moves now to maximize your future tax-free income? Not only is the year-end fast approaching, but the 2017 tax cuts sunset at the end of 2025, placing many Americans in a higher tax bracket. Don't just report your taxes, plan for them. Contact Master Plan Retirement Consultants now to create a retirement plan specifically designed for you. Visit masterplanretire.com to schedule your complimentary consultation where we can illustrate your retirement outlook and create a plan together for your future. Master Plan Retirement Consultants. Plan well and prosper.
Advisory services offered through Master Plan Retirement Consultants, Inc., a registered investment advisory in the state of Georgia. Insurance, tax, and commodity services offered through Fricks & Associates, Inc., DBA Master Plan Retirement Consultants. The aforementioned are affiliated companies.
Your voice, your vote. And this year it matters more than ever. So for the unbiased election coverage that affects your family and your community, trust the voices that matter when it matters the most. Extra 106.3 and the Extra app.
8 o'clock hours brought to you by Central Heating and Air Conditioning, your Atlanta carrier experts. 770-GET-HEAT. CentralHeat.com is the website. When Democrats of the left think about men, they think about them in a completely misguided way. They think about men and they conjure up ideas of like the big dumb dad that's goofy and doesn't get anything done and nobody takes him serious. He waves with both hands, you know, like the Al Bundy type. There's so many TV shows, Los, that it always puts the dad in the worst light possible. That seemed to be the theme for the last 20 years of like sitcom TV, especially if it was a comedy.
So I think about it when it comes to a person like Tim Walz, where the setup for all of this is, you're right, TV dad,
goofy,
kind of a knucklehead,
right. Yep.
but you know what? But he's still a dude.
And he's fun-loving. He's lovable.
Yeah, he's a governor, and he's been a football coach and a military man. But we all kind of went, he just seems a little strange.
Something ain't right about that
Seems
fellow.
a little bit different about that guy. Now, there are allegations about him. We'll save it for later. We'll see if anything comes about it.
Yeah.
Because they are sexual in nature and they are graphic, and whether or not it ever hits the mainstream or becomes something that can actually be talked about, let's just say there's alleged stuff out there, and we'll see how this plays. If it ever became true and ever became
proven
out there in the open, that is the end of the campaign for Harris and Walz, because that would be her one selection, her one thing she was pushing for. I'm going to get Tim as my guy. And you got somebody who has a lot of skeletons in the closet if this turns out to be the case. But regardless of that, watching him try and load a shotgun over the weekend.
Embarrassing.
And trying to make this into he's just a dude like you and me. All right. The biggest divide, in my opinion, in this country isn't over abortion. Because we have, depending on the stats, 70-75% of people that agree there should be abortion legal, but there should be stipulations involved. There's 10% that don't believe it should be at all. There's 12% that believe there should not be any restrictions at all. The majority is in here. The biggest divide is what a man is in this country right now.
Well, they can't tell you what a woman is on the left, so it's no surprise that they can't tell you what a dude is either.
Well, they'll tell you men can be women, and the rest of the dudes out there going like, no, they can't. I know what a woman is. Yes. That man can't be a woman.
Right.
That is the biggest area where we can't find a common ground. There is no common ground. And so take a listen. This is J.D. Vance, and he watched the video that got around of Tim Walz trying to load a shotgun, which looked incredibly awkward. For a guy, remember, he's a military man, and he's an avid hunter, but he can't load a shotgun. Take a listen to J.D. Vance as he's playing, Big Buck Hunter?
Buck Hunter, yeah.
He's playing Buck Hunter, and he decides to go ahead and mock Tim Walz over how he handles a shotgun.
Hey guys, JD Vance here, playing a little buck hunter before a rally in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, also known as the closest Tim Walz has ever gotten to real combat. Have fun out there.
Have fun out there. I love that he ends it on a have fun out there.
Now, the response on the other side is always going to be, well, JD Vance wasn't in combat. Well, he also didn't claim to.
Yeah, right. So that's a big differentiator.
That is the issue they have with Walz. He's talked about so many things he was a part of.
And he's not been a part of most of any of them.
I was at Tiananmen Square when everything went down.
No, you weren't.
Dude, my uncle was like 2 days removed from it. Like he was going on a tour. He was going to view his Chinese heritage. And there's actually a picture we have from the newspaper here of him walking through the students.
What?
Yeah, and there's my uncle walking through the student
So I remember you telling me
protesters
that he
in
went.
Tiananmen
I didn't know about the newspaper clipping.
Yeah,
okay.
He's in a newspaper, a local newspaper, and what it looks like is the palest dude in the crowd walking through, and you're like, that dude ain't Chinese. I'm like, that's Jimmy Wong. He actually is. He's, it's how it is. He's Spanish and Chinese.
Yeah.
But so he has more of a claim to this than Tim Walz does.
Because he actually went.
He was actually there during the time period.
But the frightening part is that he did take a lot of students over to China, and he would encourage them not to talk about the greatness of America and to listen to what the Chinese communists had to say about their government. And then he said he learned to govern there and how you should govern while he was there. And then it's been reported that the Chinese government started paying for those trips. So I don't know about you, but when the Chinese government start paying for anything, it gives me pause. It makes me go, what is it that they see of value in this? Because they're not just paying for random American kids to come to China unless there's some benefit for the CCP.
They're not doing it out of the goodness of their heart.
No, that's not what communists do.
Go back to America and tell them about how wonderful life is here.
And to be told while you're there, do not boast about the greatness of America. Like, what is it you're trying to accomplish by doing that? Maybe keep the kids safe. Maybe they're afraid they'll be arrested if they speak out about how great America. I don't know. Could be anything. But none of the parts add up. It doesn't make a full puzzle piece to me.
If there was some sort of, part of me wants to say corruption, but it's not corruption. If there was some sort of Chinese influence, official state influence on Tim Walz, that would be one of those great situations where we say, okay, that's the end of the campaign. Man, if it goes further than that, for what some people are alleging out there,
yeah.
That's a whole other level.
It would be next level. But both
as creepy teacher.
Both being bad, but this one being something that
this wouldn't be
you wouldn't dream up.
Wouldn't be your October surprise. This would be your October nuclear bomb.
Yeah, this would be next level. It would and it would definitely end the campaign, and they would have to suspend. And so anyway, it's not like it's very hidden. All you have to do is hit social media. You'll probably figure out
find
what it is that we're referring to.
Until there's a multitude of sources, we're just not running with it, but we are talking about the fact that Tim Walz has problems when it comes to men in this campaign, and if this would go beyond any Chinese influence. This would be going beyond any lying about military service. As much as stolen valor is a legitimate thing to be upset about,
this is worse.
This would destroy everything.
Yeah. So
this would blow it up.
Yes.
In fact, the news media will do everything, and thank you, Elon, for having Twitter. The news media will avoid this as hard as they can.
Absolutely. Up until it is forced upon them.
Yes.
If what we're referring to turns out to be
these
true.
assault charges end up being true, which again, they're just alleged charges right now. If it ended up being true, I would want to see the first media person. I'd love to see Rachel Maddow have to get out there and report this, knowing this is the end of my hopes and dreams for this group.
It wouldn't surprise me if they didn't. If they
of course not.
If they just ignored it completely and act. I mean, look at everything else that they've ignored completely. It's not above them to ignore fact and reality, because their job, in their opinion, is not to tell you the facts of the case. It is to influence you to do what they feel is right.
This would take the grab him by the pee audio of Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And it would make it look like Mickey Mouse.
That's exactly right.
I mean, like the small, tiny version of Mickey Mouse. Like, not the, hey, it's the mouse. It's Abe.
Yeah.
No. It would look like the tiniest thing that ever happened as an October surprise.
Blip on the radar screen.
It'd be nothing.
When we continue on Extra 106.3, 8 o'clock hour, brought to you by Central Heating and Air Conditioning, your Atlanta carrier experts, 770-GET-HEAT. CentralHeat.com is their website. You'll have to get it right every time. But the bad guys, well, they only have to get it right once. Next on the Morning Extra, we're on the air until 10. Then Beck, Clay, and Buck, and the local afternoon show with Kimmer, Pete, and Flounder. Here on the Morning Extra, we will be right back.
It's time for the Bortz Report, exclusively on Atlanta's only conservative news and talk station, Extra 106.3.
Back in my Atlanta days, on 2 radio stations, I had a sponsor who became a dear friend. His name was Bob Taylor, and he was one of the most generous and intelligent men I knew. Sadly, he passed away, but he had a daughter. Her name, Marjorie Taylor Greene. And because of my affection for her father, I've refrained until now from commenting on her actions in Congress. Notice the use of the words "until now." Since her election, she has been an embarrassment to the Republican Party. Okay, to the sane branch of the Republican Party. Jewish space lasers. Do you remember that one? She is an essential part of the loony right conspiracy theory cabal. You can recognize some of these people with, well, for instance, chemtrails, the condensation trails you see in the sky behind jet engines at high altitude. That's not condensation. Those are chemicals that the government is spraying on us to control us. All of the theories behind the stolen election of 2020, all of which have been disproved, part of this cabal. And now Marjorie Taylor Greene is telling us that the Democrats in our government are controlling the weather, and they steered Hurricane Helene into eastern North Carolina, a very red vote area, to discourage those people or to occupy them so that they wouldn't have the time to vote for Donald Trump in the upcoming election. My friends, the Republican Party cannot survive these lunatics. The earth is not flat. Chemtrails are merely water vapor. Dominion voting machines did not intentionally malfunction, and our government isn't steering hurricanes. This nonsense is only doing damage to the Republican Party. Neil Bortz, Extra 106.3.
Customer service seems like a lost art these days, but EMC Security is bringing it back. I was blown away with their service. They answer the phone quickly and truly want to help you, which is rare these days. My technician was friendly, answered all my questions, and got everything installed perfectly. I highly recommend EMC Security.
EMC Security, exceeding customer expectations since 1998. Call or visit emcsecurity.com for a free quote.
Are you the type of consumer that likes to do your research before you choose a company? Well, then you need to join Dan Watkins, Chris Lolamy, and myself, Jim Niarchos, every Saturday morning at 9 for the All Four Seasons Home Show. We only vet local businesses with a proven history of integrity, competence, and solid customer service. The All Four Seasons Home Show helps you make a good consumer decision, save money, and not get ripped off. You can also follow our podcasts on Apple, Google, and Spotify. The All Four Seasons Home Show, Saturday mornings at 9, right here on Extra 106.3.
At Nelson Elder Care Law, we understand that family's everything. That's why we prioritize your family's future with personalized asset protection solutions. Call us today to schedule your legacy planning meeting and discover how our team can tailor our services to meet your family's unique needs, ensuring a secure and worry-free future. NelsonElderCareLaw.com.
Why is it that only white columnists are the only ones ever held responsible for taking somebody else's stuff when every race, creed, color on this planet has done it 1,000 times?
Well, because we're the white people.
The Kimmer Show every afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. on Extra 106.3 and the Extra app. WFOM and W292EV Marietta, a Dickey broadcasting station. The 9 a.m. hour is presented by Southern Exteriors. Quality and
entering Israel's Iron Dome. I'm Dave Anthony, Fox News. The U.S. is going to send a missile defense system and American troops to operate it. Meanwhile, today,
Israel has intercepted 2 drones fired from Syria, and Hezbollah continues firing on northern and central Israel.
The day after a Hezbollah drone hit an Israeli military base.
This morning, Defense Minister Yoav Gallant visited the Army base where 4 soldiers were killed. 7 others are seriously wounded. Dozens more are injured.
Fox's Nate Foy in Tel Aviv. In Lebanon, the Red Cross says an Israeli strikes killed 18 people. The United Nations is upset about this.
2 Israeli tanks destroyed the main gate of their base. Then later, smokescreen rounds caused 15 peacekeepers to suffer skin irritations and gastrointestinal reactions. Israel's military says it encroached on a UNIFIL position while evacuating soldiers injured by Hezbollah.
Fox's Jonathan Savage. Vice President Harris and former President Trump will both campaign in Pennsylvania after trips to other toss-up states. Harris said in North Carolina,
he refuses to release his medical records. I've done it.
Also criticizing a rival for refusing to debate her again. The former president rallied in Arizona. Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance, had a confrontation on TV.
People are terrified by what has happened with some of these Venezuelan gangs.
Senator Vance, I'm going to stop you because I know exactly what happened.
Martha Raddatz interrupted Vance on ABC's This Week as they discussed illegal migrant activity in Aurora, Colorado.
The incidents were limited to a handful of apartment complexes, and the mayor said our dedicated police officers have acted on those concerns.
Martha, do you hear yourself? Only a handful of apartment complexes in America were taken over by Venezuelan gangs, and Donald Trump is the problem and not Kamala Harris's open border?
Rivers remain at or near flood stage in Florida after Hurricane Milton. There's still more than 400,000 power outages. America's listening to Fox.
Life takes a toll on our bodies. No way around it. Whether it's sitting hours on end at your computer or working a physical job, over time, your body pays the price. There is, however, an effective way to turn back the clock on pain. Relief Factor. Developed by doctors, Relief Factor helps support your body's response to inflammation. The difference, instead of masking pain, Relief Factor helps eliminate it for good. And it's 100% drug-free. If the pains that come with living a full life are affecting you, do as so many others have. Turn back the clock on pain with Relief Factor. Their 3-week quick start is just $19.95, less than $1 a day. When you feel good, it's amazing how much more you get out of life. So visit ReliefFactor.com or call 1-800-4-RELIEF. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF. Try it for only $19.95. While we can't stop aging, not yet, we can stop pain. Turn back the clock with Relief Factor.
You may have seen the Bortz billboard all across town. Let everyone know Bortz is back and his new home is Extra 106.3.
Tug, Rhino, and Los until 10 on the Morning Extra. 9 o'clock hour brought to you by Southern Exteriors, your Atlanta exterior solution. Since 1999, they'll look you in the eye, shake your hand, and do exactly what they say they are going to do. Windows, doors, gutters, roofs, anything to the exterior of your home, they'll take care of it. 8779 Southern. SouthernExteriors.co is their website. I don't believe that they're going to stop trying to kill Donald Trump. I do not believe that. It doesn't matter if he's elected or not. They are going to continue. Some people are going to try to continue killing or trying to continue to kill Donald Trump. That is not going to end for the rest of the man's life.
No, and that's unfortunate about the situation with our politics. It's where we're at. It's what it is now. The fact that we've now had, we've had 2 legitimate assassination attempts, and we've had 3 in 45 years and 2 in 2 months. I'm not taking what happened in California, even though it was reported initially as, hey, we think we subverted an assassination attempt. It sounds more and more like this was a situation where the man who's accused of this, 49-year-old Ben Miller, was looking to get into the Trump rally, and when his credentials were not correct, they then looked at his vehicle and he had weapons in there. And as he told the media, he's like, I always travel. He's like, I've never shot one of these, but I always travel with them.
That's the red flag for me.
Yeah.
I have all these weapons. I carry all these weapons, yet I've never shot any of them. Do you think that is a defense mechanism saying that, I know I got them. I just do it for protection. I don't actually shoot the weapons that I own.
Well, I ask you this question, and keep in mind, I'm ignorant of what he had handgun-wise, but when they said that he had a high-capacity magazine, Are we talking about something that holds more than 8? Like,
I would imagine.
So if it holds 10, is that typically a high-capacity magazine?
Yeah.
All right. You got a handgun that holds 10. That's what I'm curious
about. I
about.
think more like a 15, because I forget where it is. I forget where the drop-off is, where it's like not legal.
Because I know there's different states have different laws when it comes to high-capacity what they consider high capacity.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm curious because the buzzword has been he had a shotgun and a pistol with high-capacity magazines.
Yeah, that's the only way that it's described. And I would imagine out in California, everything is.
And that makes it sound wildly dangerous. 10. Okay, so 10 is high capacity in that state, according. Thank you, Joe.
In California, you mean, right? Yeah.
And 10 is not high capacity everywhere.
No, because I'm looking at Vermont, New York, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. So basically the Northeast, Illinois, Colorado, and then the West Coast. That's high capacity. In those states
it's 10.
only. Yeah, it's 10.
So 8 would be underneath high capacity, so just a standard magazine.
Yeah.
And that's where I tell you the buzzword for me is high capacity. That's what was being pushed. But it still doesn't change the fact that I think this is going to be a regular part of our politics moving forward when it comes to Donald Trump. I don't know if this applies to everyone. I know that it applied to Brett Kavanaugh. I know Steve Scalise. I even know that when you look at Congresswoman Giffords, and the reason why she was shot in Arizona was because a communist didn't think she was communist enough.
And that gets left out of the conversation a whole
Gabby
lot.
Giffords was shot because the person did not think she was Democrat far left enough of a representative.
And I don't want to sound morbid, but I'm afraid this is what it's going to come off as. The Secret Service is compromised at the top. We know that. We've seen it with the woman who stepped down and now the man who is in charge. Both of them have been caught telling fibs under oath. And so they only have to be wrong one time for Donald Trump to be killed. And I even to say it out loud, it still sounds crazy that is where we've devolved to in the United States. Politics used to be, they would get after one another, but it's never been to this fever pitch that we're at now. And the bad guys, anybody that wants to take out Donald Trump, they only have to be right once. That's the thing. The cards are stacked against you. And I know that is not going to change at all from now on, for whether he's elected or not. None of that is going to change. He is always going to have a target on his back.
I do appreciate that we've at least, as we de-evolve, at least we've evolved in terms of our level of protection with Donald Trump. Considering that a little bit more than 2 months ago, we could have somebody with a rangefinder at his event and no one really think a whole lot about that, to running around on a roof, which nobody really thought anything about that until shots started firing out, to at least this guy has the wrong credential. We're going to check him out now.
Yeah.
We're going to flag it. At least that's a higher level of protection now.
The boots on the ground folks, I feel like, are trying to do the best that they can. I feel like it's the folks at the top that set them up for failure. And most of the time intentionally. They give you enough, but not exactly what you need. They try to get you so they could never be accused. Oh, we sent everything we had. But most everybody went to this thing with Jill Biden, because she's under such scrutiny. She's under such surveillance. She has to be watched.
She's running the country.
Well, there is that.
She's holding the cabinet meetings.
Yeah. Now, for sure. And maybe always. Maybe we're just seeing it.
Maybe it's just the way it is now.
But nobody's going after Jill Biden. Nobody. Who's going after Jill Biden? Has there been one threat against Jill Biden? I feel like if there had been, it would be publicized because they would want to blame some MAGA Republican by it.
If anyone saw the interview with Tucker Carlson and Elon Musk from last week, and the funny part, the buzz that got out there was him talking about, if Trump loses, how long am I going to prison for? Am I going to be able to see my family? Like, that was the buzz. But he brought up the assassination attempts, and he said, take a look. Nobody's going after Kamala Harris or anybody. It's like, because it doesn't matter. They're not actually running the country. It's like, it's, as he put it, he's like, there's a group of people that are running this country. This is just the figurehead. This is just, as I've said before, this is the hood ornament on the car.
On the machine.
It's all who it is. And that's what's the wild significance and the difference of the two, is that at least, and credit to him or you can make fun of him for it, Donald Trump looks at it as, I'm going to be in charge again. We'll see. I mean, that's but he came across as, I'm in charge, and that's why I'm firing people, and this is why I'm going to hire differently this time around, because he's like, I'm going to be in charge.
Absolutely right. And I believe that. And I hope with all that is me that he has Elon Musk come in with that machete that he took to Twitter. And Twitter runs now more. It operates more. It operates better than it ever has before.
It has to be more efficient when you
efficient
get rid
was the word I was looking for.
of 80% of the staff, including so much of the DEI and everything else that were ridiculous. The people that were in charge of censorship. When you cut 80% of the workforce, and yet the app still works correctly, runs correctly, handles all the bandwidth, handles all the traffic, and what does the left say about it? Well, it's now a place for hate. No, y'all were just using it to make sure that only your speech was ever talked about.
Exactly right. And seemingly encouraging people to take pop shots at the former president.
I saw I think it was Wall Street Silver. Anyway, it was a funny meme, and it was using from The Office. I don't know if you've ever seen it, where it'll show you here's what was said and here's what was the result. And it basically pointed out that if you were to say the things that were going on with Kamala Harris, as far as, criticizing her, talking about her word salad, talking about the issues that she has on the campaign trail, then you were going to be censored on Twitter had this been pre-Elon, because you weren't allowed to say the things that were going on.
And I think the thing that blew the lid off of it is the whole COVID thing, if I could speak, because people are like, well, why can't I ask the question about the effectiveness if I'm being mandated to take this shot? And that was and I think that's, you started seeing the crack in the dam, and then all of a sudden people were being banned left and right. And then nothing. Nobody was able to say anything.
It was a litmus test for what you could get away with. So as somebody says, hey, listen, this doesn't stop infection. What are we doing here? Why are we trying to market it this way?
Because that was the marketing.
Well, then you would catch the strike, you would catch the ban, you were out there, and then we would go with whatever the state said. By the time we got really past 2020 into 2021, then it became, hey, have you noticed Joe looks like he has dementia? Catch a strike, you're out.
Absolutely, you couldn't say that.
You could not say these things that were becoming very obvious to people. So I'm right there with you. I can't wait to see, if Donald Trump is in office, who he's going to surround himself with and what they do about dealing with our health care, what they are doing with our food, with our children.
Censorship.
And I'm talking about hands off, in that I want to make sure that parents have choices in these matters, and censorship and the bloatedness of a government that has so much redundancy that it can't work efficiently.
That's right. And the founding fathers warned that this day would come, and now we're here. What are you going to do with it? Are you going to elect someone who will stay with the status quo, hurt your pocketbook, hurt your future, hurt your kids' future? Or are you going with somebody who is just going to take an absolute axe to it all? That's what I want to see done. All Trump had to say was, I'm going to turn Elon Musk loose on this thing. And ABC, we had this earlier in the show. You can go back and listen to it on the app if you'd like. ABC News was scared to death because Donald Trump was going to get his revenge on the federal government. And they were saying that was a reason not to vote for him. I was like, well, that's a reason that I want to vote for him. That puts him A+ in my book.
I see that headline. I go, ooh, I start Montgomery Burns, just rubbing my hands together, going like, oh, what are we going to do here? If you just look at it in terms of, let's say, for instance, the IRS. And when we had the act that ended up putting 87,000 new IRS agents to go after, or going after millionaires and billionaires. No, you're not going after regular
because
people.
There's not enough. There's not that many millionaires and billionaires to begin with.
No, this is about going after regular middle America. If you were to fire all those people, you would have the next day, oh my God, Elon Musk and Trump have fired 87,000 federal employees.
That's right.
And my next thing would be, well, now they have to compete where I do in the private sector.
Marketplace.
And by the way, everyone you then terminate, and yes, every single termination is a tragedy. I've been fired before when I'm like, babe, my station fell apart when I worked over down the street. No fault of my own. I'm like, wow, okay, this is not cool. But when that happens, understand the difference in when you fire Joe radio host versus you fire IRS person, that actually puts the money back into the private sector.
That's right.
That money goes back into the private sector. Every single dollar, billions back into the private sector, so that, hey, if you can catch on, if you're pretty good as far as what you do for the IRS, maybe you're a pretty good accountant. Maybe you can go do it privately for some firm and not do it for the government.
We'll see how many of those folks can. But when you talk about Elon Musk, a guy getting in there that can he understands efficiency, he understands business, Much like Donald Trump, they're very alike in that part. But this is a man who launched a rocket. His company launched a rocket and then had the rocket land itself back on the launch pad. Did you see the video of this?
Yes, and it's incredible.
Freaking believable. That's who I want running the government at the most efficient way possible.
So the question was, why didn't it land on the pad like the other ones? And I thought this was a very good question. And this tells you about the ingenuity of what's going on at SpaceX and how you're starting to rethink things. They recognized that the weight of the legs was going to be a hindrance to higher Earth orbit and then obviously going to Mars eventually and going to the moon. So they decided, well, we need a bigger rocket, but we got to save on the weight of the legs. What are we going to do? How about we design an arm to catch the rocket when it comes back down?
What do you think? I mean, it sounds like something out of a...
Government doesn't come up with that.
No, of course not. No, ever. The government's the most backwards thinking, restrictive. They do nothing.
And don't tell me about going to the moon.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I'm open to interpretation on that one too, Bortz.
Yeah. I've always been a solid believer, and I still am a believer. But I understand why people question.
I love going into conspiracy theory and then having to think about like, hey, tomorrow, 7:25, question one from me. Neil, did we go to the moon?
Because I can't believe.
But to see that, the ingenuity of what's going on with SpaceX is incredible. And so to think that you can take that secret sauce and apply it to my federal government in a way that...
should make it more efficient.
In a way where I think you're going to see the idea that you're taking one of the smartest people in the world, one of the sharpest people in the world, and saying, all right, what can we fix this week? And by the time he's done, I know what's going to happen. It's going to look like Twitter.
Right. And it didn't take, a month? And he had cleaned house? Remember,
he cleaned house quickly.
He was carrying around that bathroom sink?
He brought in the sink to let them know what was coming.
He was throwing out everything. He was getting rid of everything, including the sink.
By the way...
And he did.
He's a Democrat.
I know. Right.
Who then found himself on our side because he bought Twitter and they went crazy on him.
Same with RFK. Same with Tulsi Gabbard. And look, I don't agree with RFK on everything. I don't agree with Elon Musk on everything. And I don't agree with Tulsi Gabbard on everything.
But that's why I want you with me.
But I'm okay with having disagreements. The other side is not. They want you either lockstep or you're out.
Why do you think they call people that consider themselves MAGA, or that's now like the buzzword?
Yeah,
like
sure.
Janelle King, she says something, oh, you're a MAGA. All right, I say something
further from the truth.
You're a MAGA Republican. Yeah. I'm like, I don't own one piece of MAGA gear, never consider myself, but whatever, regardless. That is because they're trying to make you into the cult that they actually are.
Mm-hmm.
It is a cult of do not question anything, do not say anything, do not think differently. You know, they are, as we saw, when they were the COVID Davidians, they were dedicated to whatever they were told.
Still are.
And now they just continue with whatever the new programming is. Cult leader, what do you need us to learn today? And then they wait for that programming. So many of them. And I would include this with your Aunt Peg. There's probably moments of clarity where she goes, that's weird, because my wife has them too.
She would never say it out loud, though.
But then here's the problem. Like, my wife does not watch any sort of cable news.
Okay, so Aunt Peg
none of it.
She's like glued to it.
She's waiting for the next download.
Mm-hmm.
My wife's software is so far out of date. Like, she doesn't know that men are supposed to be women and that they're better at being women than women. She doesn't think that. She doesn't know it. Aunt Peg is sitting there ready for it.
She just can't wait, and then can't wait to share it on social media.
What am I supposed to think about this?
Absolutely.
Tell me, Rachel Maddow.
And then we'll share it on social media and try to share it with me. And going back to the people that step away, there's a dude out in San Francisco. Saw a great video. I can share it at Tug Coward if you'd like to see it too. It's about 3.5, 4 minutes long. This dude is driving home and he's filming himself in this video. He says it changed his life. And I was fired. I was fired for not wearing my mask. This is at San Francisco's Pacific Heights. Cost him his job. Like, where are we? Like, what? Who's still wearing masks? And California's trying to bring it all back.
State of California, within their hospital system, they're trying to make it mandatory once again that once you enter the premises, this is what you have to do. Now, we have some of this in Atlanta. I experienced this probably 12 months ago, 10 months ago. And the important part was, as soon as I got past the initial door everyone, including the doctors, had it off.
Yeah.
They're just like, here's what the policy is.
Yeah.
Just put
It's
it on for
dumb,
the moment.
and everybody knows it's dumb.
But in California, they're not trying to make it dumb.
No, you're dumb and will be fired if you don't follow along. Get in line, sir. Get in line. Morning Xtra on Xtra 106.3. Backing Trump is not odd, says one guest on a very, very liberal TV show. You won't be surprised who said it, however. Next on the Morning Xtra, Tug, Rhino, and Los until 10. 9 o'clock hours brought to you by Southern Exteriors, your home exterior solution since 1999. 8779 Southern, southernexteriors.co.
The Kimmer Show is only live on Extra 106.3 every weekday afternoon on your drive home. They're showing that he was a puppet and that she's a puppet. They've showed their hand. It's basically all out in the open now.
The only political party in the history of the world, of any country, anywhere in the world, that's performed a coup against its enemy and its own guy. They performed a coup against Donald Trump and a coup against their own president of the United States.
The Kimmer Show, every afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. on Extra 106.3 and the Extra app.
Convenience is defined as the state of being able to proceed with something with little effort or difficulty. Well, at RBM of Atlanta, we embody this philosophy. Meet our Mercedes-Benz pickup and delivery service. It gives you back time and money. Does your Mercedes-Benz need service? If so, we'll pick up your vehicle that's requiring service from your home or office and bring it back to our dealership for the required service. With over 100 appointments available every weekday, over 50 appointments on Saturdays, and more than 200 courtesy vehicles in our fleet, we're here to serve. We'll work around your schedule. We're here to save you time, energy, and money. RBM of Atlanta is a J.D. Power 2023 Diamond Dealer of Excellence for the customer sales experience and Georgia's only 9-time Mercedes-Benz Best of the Best winner. We're proud to be Atlanta's Mercedes-Benz connection since 1964. Pickup and delivery service restrictions do apply. Ask your service coordinator or service advisor for details.
Central Heating and Air Conditioning wants you to know the start of the new season is the perfect time to ensure your home's comfort for the fall and winter. Don't wait like most people do to have your HVAC system serviced. Your home should have maintenance twice a year. Maintenance helps keep your furnace running at peak efficiency and extends the life of your equipment. Turn to the experts for your system's maintenance at 770-GET-HEAT or centralheat.com. Central Heating and Air Conditioning can fix what ails your house and possibly your family with home ventilation and air quality products. Central has packages designed around health using variable speed, fresh air ventilation, air cleaners, air purifiers, dehumidifiers, and more. Carrier products, carrier warranty, and carrier peace of mind. Central Heating and Air Conditioning, your Atlanta Carrier expert since 1947 and one of the few second-generation locally owned HVAC companies in Atlanta. Call 770-GET-HEAT or go to centralheat.com.
We're smart, we care. We're Central Heating and Air.
As an official community partner of the Atlanta Braves and the Atlanta Braves Foundation, the Warrior Alliance connects warriors and their families to free services such as health and wellness, housing, employment, education, legal services, and so much more. We need your financial support to increase our impact and change thousands of lives for those who served in the U.S. Armed Forces. It takes more than just thank you for your service. Make a donation to help warriors navigate to success after service. Go to thewarrioralliance.org/donate and make a difference today.
My name is Jamie High, and I have worked for Bruce Hagen for 14 years. Why do I work for Bruce? Because he truly cares. He cares about me, he cares about my family, and he cares about each and every one of his clients. Family is important to him, and he never makes me choose between my family and work. He values me as an employee, but also as a person. At our firm, we are all family, and I wouldn't want it any other way. I am Jamie, and I've worked for Bruce Hagen for 14 years because he's the best. Hagen-law.com.
Hey, it's Mike with Atlanta Painting Company. In this fall, we invite you to transform your home. Our expert team brings color to life with top quality paints and flawless finishes, and leading the industry with our color consultants. Whether it's a fresh coat of paint for one room or an entire exterior makeover, the Atlanta Painting Company has you covered. So, trust the local pros for reliable, professional service when you need to revive your home or business. Find us at atlantapaintingcompany.com or call us at 1-800-PAINTING. That's atlantapaintingcompany.com. The Atlanta Painting Company, the painters you can trust.
Hey, Jimmy, what's going on?
Oh, hey, Bobby. It's kind of embarrassing. I'm having deck problems.
You're having deck problems?
Hey, keep it down. It's embarrassing.
Now look, there's plenty of guys in the neighborhood with deck problems. What's the matter with yours?
Well, it's small and old compared to yours.
All right, let's not make this a deck measuring competition. You just need to call Excavations. They've seen decks of all sizes, shapes, and colors. Good news is Excavations can build you a sweet new deck that you'll love to show off to your friends and neighbors. Don't worry, Jimmy. We're going to get you some big deck energy.
Hi, this is Candace with Excavations, and have I got a tip for you. Don't feel ashamed of your deck. Excavations can build an outdoor living space that you'll be proud of. And with our Exavision, we'll be able to show you your home's transformation before you even begin the work. Keep the HOA off your deck and give us a call today for decks, windows, siding, roofing, and more. Or visit us at exovations.com to get inspired.
The stories that matter to you. These are your Georgia headlines. Presented by RBM of Atlanta, your Mercedes-Benz connection since 1964.
Good morning. Here are your headlines for today, Monday, October 14th. Former President Donald Trump will make his way into Forsyth County tomorrow as he will be taking part in a Fox News town hall that'll be focused on women's issues as he tries to narrow the gap when it comes to women between himself and Vice President Kamala Harris. Speaking of trying to narrow the gap, currently you have the Democrats looking to narrow the gap with men, as former President Bill Clinton was in rural Georgia doing a men's outreach, again, kind of with the shades of the Bubbas for Bill sort of era from the 90s. From NFL action, the Atlanta Falcons are now 4-2 on the season as they get a 38-20 win over the Carolina Panthers in Charlotte yesterday. The Falcons do sit atop the NFC South with a 4-2 record.
Tug, Rhino, and Los on the Morning Extra until 10. Glad that you're here. 404-741-1230 is the number. At Extra 1063 across the social media platforms. And you can stream us on the Extra 1063 app or watch the show as it comes down on the Extra 1063 YouTube channel. So many ways to connect, be involved, and consume the product that is Extra 1063.
Should we tell the peoples about what was being settled on Friday to kind of start getting them ready?
Yeah, sure.
So we're going to cover election night, and we're going to do it big. And you'll get more details to follow. But if you want to follow along on our YouTube channel or on the app, if you want the real-time discussion based on what we're seeing and what we're watching, and we'll integrate with Fox News because obviously we have the rights to that as well. So we are planning on pulling a long evening that evening and taking you all the way through it until hopefully we get a victory here in the state of Georgia.
That's right. So you can either hang with us and talk about what's really happening, or watch the mainstream media, the drive-bys, as Rush would have called them, and have them feed you a bunch of BS, a bunch of nonsense.
Going to want to, at some point, be like, we need to pull some audio from MSNBC.
Yes,
if everything continues going in the way that the polling looks, everything's looking really good. I've been optimistic for about a week and a half.
Yep.
In part because of the polling, and in part because I'm seeing what's happening with the Harris campaign of them having to completely change the way that they're going about their campaigning.
21 days out.
Complete change.
Yeah, to do a drop step. And they push out a commercial that was a complete backfire. Every time she opens her mouth, it's a backfire.
Okay, so it was called Man Enough that came out on Friday. It was produced, directed by a writer who worked for Jimmy Kimmel. And it featured a handful of actors, one of them who does adult films with him hooking up with men.
Mm-hmm.
And that was who they decided, let's put this together to tell you about how we got to get men in for Kamala Harris.
Which is, like, I don't know how you get it so wrong. I mean, if you were to ask me, hey, put together an ad that would be effective against Donald Trump,
yes.
I feel like I could do it.
Yes.
I feel like I could do it. And yet, these people are working and are paid for putting together ads to benefit Kamala Harris and strike out completely. Every ad is a complete strikeout because they don't know who their audience is.
I thought it was very funny how you brought up this guy, and this is the one that was sitting on the tailgate of the truck.
He had a little twist at his hips.
Had a little twisted hip, kind of, was doing a little bit of a pose. And you said it looked like he walked out of the catalog from LL Bean.
That's the truth, man.
He did. And he was supposed to be the hardworking guy who just finished.
On a ranch.
He's on a ranch and he just finished up. It's the end of the day. And
sitting
he's here
on the tailgate.
telling you
with
about
a hip
Man
twist.
Enough.
I mean, It was the worst. I mean, as soon as I saw it, I was like, there's no dude that sits like that. I don't know one dude that sits like that.
That director came across as, apparently you don't know what real dudes are either.
I think that's pretty safe to say. All you have to do is watch that video, which is now gone, scrubbed, memory hold.
Creatives for Harris, which is the organization that did it, and they have their entire ads, their entire group of ads that they put together during this campaign. You won't find it on their website anymore.
Imagine that.
It was on Friday, gone, as within like 12 hours.
It's funny how they realize it when it after it's done with. You would think they would have done some QC, some quality control on it, ran it by somebody and said, hey, what do you think about this? Because anybody that's a man would be like, dude, I don't know one dude that looks, acts, or behaves like that. Zero.
Creativesforharris.org. You can go through their entire roster. Now, that's what I call MAGA, the weird button, insults for good, all their projects. And Man Enough is no longer there anymore.
They're like, we got to pull this one down. We're not sure about this one. Let's get rid of this one.
They got rid of that one pretty quickly.
This is bad. This is real bad. Anyway, Kamala Harris had since today is Columbus Day, she had some choice words for Christopher Columbus. I'll let you hear her and we'll respond to it.
It is an honor, of course, to be with you this week as we celebrate Indigenous Peoples Day, as we speak truth about our nation's history. Since 1934, every October, the United States has recognized the voyage of the European explorers who first landed on the shores of the Americas. But that is not the whole story. That has never been the whole story. Those explorers ushered in a wave of devastation for tribal nations, perpetrating violence, stealing land, and spreading disease. We must not shy away from this shameful past, and we must shed light on it and do everything we can to address the impact of the past on Native communities today.
Wow.
I love it.
But I know, and I understand why. But at the same time, give me one land that has not been conquered in the world. Ever. Give me one.
It's not how it works.
Yeah.
That's
No, of course not. Of course not. But what happened when this land was discovered has been unbelievable. It is the shining city on the hill. It is the leader in the way things should operate, or it has been traditionally. I guess in the last 4 years, you could certainly argue that it wasn't. But unbelievable amounts of ignorance spit out by Kamala Harris.
What we have in world history is typically you'll have a group that considers themselves the enlightened ones, the civilized ones, and they're going to conquer barbarism. And that's what happens. You can go throughout the histories, all through the Bible, all the way beyond the Bible. You can go through so much of Roman history, of them going into Gaul and everywhere else and getting rid of these horrible people. Look at these Germans. They live in disgusting ways. We're here to conquer them and civilize them. All right, when you get to this story here in these United States, one of the things that you're always sold, and Kamala Harris just sold it to you as well, well, they were just the peaceful Indians. Mm-hmm. They were so friendly to one another. When you go through the real history, and it doesn't mean they deserve to be conquered. It's not what I'm saying. But you're sold this bill of goods that it was all, they live off the land and they only take what they need. And they were butchering each other.
Of course.
These are tribes. And they did things to each other that would just mess with your mind. Like, even think about it. When you go through some of the Spanish conquistadors and how they found, like, for instance, like the Mayans, like, oh my God, these people are butchers.
Yeah, they're massacring.
This is what was going on. And this doesn't change. This is everybody. I still joke around about watching Chimp Empire on Netflix. You know what the chimps do?
Butcher each other.
And they patrol their own territory. And they go searching for more territory. All right? This is not different in nature versus what we do. But yet, Kamala Harris is doing the Indigenous Peoples Day and we wronged them. This is just the nature of what happens in the world. So I'm just glad to be on the winning side.
Absolutely.
And you don't have to apologize for that.
And I won't. And the other thing that I find fascinating is the fact that America has shaped what the world looks like today. I mean, from every invention, from every technology. I mean, the majority of what's happened in the last 100 years has generated from the United States of America and made the world a better and you could even argue more progressive place.
I would ask you this question. Is cannibalism nasty?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Like, you think that's like, we make movies about it when people have to resort to cannibalism. All right, the Iroquois ate people.
Goodness, you can't. But you
the Iroquois,
better be careful, boy. Talking about eating things.
The Iroquois made it a point. Yeah,
they're eating the dogs.
They made it a point.
They're eating the cat.
If we beat you, we're gonna eat you. And the Jesuits who are watching this are like, hey, they eat people.
Yeah, you better watch out.
Ooh, but not in Kamala Harris's world. Yeah, in this clean world, this doesn't happen. Again, that doesn't mean you deserve to be conquered unless you just don't like cannibals. But this is the reality of the world, and
unless
yet
you just don't like cannibals.
The left chooses to ignore that this was the reality of what people found when they got here.
But that's the thing. How do you rile people up? How do you teach them that America is bad? You go from that point of view, and if that's your starting point, there's no other way to think. Then America's just terrible, horrible, no good, very bad. I just find it fascinating that Kamala Harris has the courage.
Look into what the Sioux were doing to their counterparts.
Right.
Okay? Look into what the Apache would do to their counterparts. Not white men, not white women. No, look what they did to their Indian brethren counterparts that they considered rivals.
Yeah. Look it up. I think you will be shocked, especially if you believe.
But we brought disease.
That's right. And horrors that are beyond imagination.
Somewhere there's a Spanish member of my family that probably links all the way back to those days, and they've showed up here, and maybe they brought some measles.
Right. They probably brought something.
So I'm bad.
Yeah, right. It's all you. It's all your fault.
It's what happens.
Voting for Donald Trump, maybe that's not so odd. We had a person that you'll hear from noon to 3 here on Extra 106.3 and Buck Sexton, who showed up on a really liberal show with Bill Maher.
Yeah, good for Buck Sexton. And he's done Real Time with Bill Maher before. And Bill Maher, if there's anything that's happened, he's now turned into that guy who he's going to criticize both ends. Now, he's going to criticize your end more. He's going to criticize me more than he's going to criticize his own end. But he does do both. Take a listen to Buck Sexton as he's on, and he's the token Republican, right? That's what he is. But he's treated rather well. And you start to have Bill Maher lay out the argument as to these groups of people that don't seem to be voting for Harris and Walz in the amount that they believe they should. And Buck asks a very simple question.
What did you think of Obama's comments on the campaign trail that black men should get over their reluctance to vote for Kamala? Will that be effective? Yeah, he was pretty scoldy. You don't usually see him like that. You usually see him kind of take this opposite.
I think Wall Street Journal and the New York Times poll most recently has overall black support for Trump over 20%, by the way. I think it might have been as high as...
That's just men.
Men. But we're speaking about the Obama speaking to the issue of black men and their support of Kamala Harris. So Trump is making inroads with that demographic, voting-wise.
He oddly does better each time with immigrants, minority groups, people of color, the people who you...
Maybe it's not so odd.
Maybe it's not. And maybe you're seeing...
it's not so odd.
But remember, they weird didn't work. They tried for a long time to say, wow, J.D. Vance is weird, don't vote for him. And now it's not odd. You're seeing this shift. And this is just the beginning of the shift, too. Let's fast forward 2 or 3 election cycles and see where we are. And I think this shift is going to get greater and greater and greater. Because, let's face it, let's be honest. Sound like Joe Biden with all the...
Seriously now, not kidding.
Exactly. As dumb as I could say. That's right. Anyway, point being is that I expect that number is going to continue to grow because the Democrat Party no longer focuses on working folks. They have abandoned them altogether. It is the people that we can put in boxes. Now, minority groups usually stay in there, but it's not working minority groups that they care about or working people that they care about. Middle class, lower class, no. It is people that we can break down into boxes and promote individually. That's going to be our winning strategy forward. And I think people are seeing that, are like, I don't think I want any part of this. That doesn't sound right to me.
It took nearly 20 years for me to be right. And when I say it took 20 years, trust me, I was wondering when it was going to happen. I kept thinking, when you're allowing so much of Central and South America into this country, and again, we're not looking at the amounts like now, but over the last 20 years, that was who was traditionally flowing in. And they're largely Catholic, and they're largely religious. And those are two areas where I kept thinking, when are the Republicans going to take advantage of this? Because your message is one of Judeo-Christian ethics. Your one is one of religion. You're the one who's not denying that religion has a place in this country. And so I think it's taken till now when they bring up, whoa, these immigrant groups, these Hispanic groups, why is he doing so well? Well, because his message resonates with them, and the way he's talking to them and the way they live their lives is much more in line with what Donald Trump is talking about rather than Kamala Harris.
John B. Judas is an author. Interesting last name. Spelled differently. Judis. John B. Judas. The Emerging Democrat Majority. And it talks about all the people that they will focus on and all the people that they will leave behind in their new search and their new effort to reconfigure the Democrat Party. If you read the book, it is all about the LGBT movements. It's all about illegal immigration and illegal immigrants, and who else can we coalesce for that to be our new party. And those people that you're talking about, Los, they're out. We don't care about them. We don't focus on them anymore.
No, you're constantly, when you're a communist, and I'm not going to pretend that writer is a communist, but the communist is typically looking for groups that feel they've been victimized and that they're angry. They'll be the ones to then step in, and if you give me power, I'll go fix this for you. Now, that never happens, but that is their coalition of victim groups. Why do you think that you constantly have, the Antifas of the world, the BLMs of the world, the Me Too's, all of these groups that basically, they're all the same people. They put on a different hat, and now they're here for this group, but they all have the same message. I've been wronged. I need power so I can fix it. Or make sure I get my politician power so they can fix it. They never do. They just have to keep you in perpetual victimhood.
Go find that book. Read about it. I think you'll see what has happened since 2004 when it came out to where we are right now. And it is the blueprint for the Democrat Party. When we continue, we'll wrap up the final segment of the show, the bonus hour as we call it. Saturday Night Live continues to laugh at Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Some of it's funny. Some of it's not. Some of it's funny, though. And I got to tell you, the thing we'll play for you next, the first time I heard it, I kind of chuckled. But then when I listened to it with our board op, Captain Goey Virgin River, and him falling in the floor, it became one of the funniest things I've seen today. And I want you to hear it next. On Extra 106.3. Tug, Rhino, and Los until 10.
The party that's been screaming the most about election interference from the Russians is wanting millions of people to cross the border legally and vote in our election.
That's right. The Kimmer Show every afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m. on Extra 106.3 and the Extra app.
Join A Second Chance Bail Bond CEO Daniel Madelon and host Tug Coward for the weekly radio show Back Your Blue. They will highlight special initiatives, criminal justice programs, and community events aimed at keeping our communities safer. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to learn some good news about and from the law enforcement and justice communities. This week's guest is Michael J. Whitlock, Executive Vice President of the Bail Division for American Surety Company. Tune in on Saturdays or catch up on all past episodes wherever you get your podcasts or at thepodcastpark.com.
No one plans on going to jail, but when it happens, it's important that you know who to call. Call A Second Chance Bail Bonds, where we believe everyone deserves a second chance. Whether your loved one's been arrested in Cherokee, Clayton, or any of the other metro Atlanta counties in between, A Second Chance Bail Bonds works fast to help expedite release within hours. A Second Chance. It's better to know us and not need us than need us and not know us. Call A Second Chance 24/7 at 404-BAIL-OUT or online at atlbail.com.
Looking for bold discussions on vital issues? Tune in to The Janelle King Show every Saturday at 3 p.m. with an encore episode every Sunday at 9 a.m. right here on Extra 106.3, where we dive into kitchen table topics that are essential for a strong republic. Don't miss an episode, but if you do, it's all good because we have new podcasts that drop every Tuesday on the Podcast Park or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't miss out on these thought-provoking conversations.
Millions of guys suffer from erectile dysfunction. That's 1 in 4 men. And I can tell you, I'm one of them.
If you or someone you know suffer from ED, Peyronie's disease, or PE, here's 38-year emergency room doctor and founder of Total Body Therapy of Georgia, Dr. Eric Deal.
Patients who enter my office are often frustrated, hopeless, depressed, and embarrassed. I understand the problem, and I'm going to help you fix it. There are lots of competitors that don't have the credentials that I have. When you go to other clinics, you're not going to see a board-certified physician with the experience that I have. When you come to our clinic, you're going to see me. There's just not one therapy that can solve these complex issues. I'll do a complete history and physical prior to any treatment that we use. Take it from me, Dr. Deal. When it's not hard, it's really hard.
Call Dr. Deal for your free one-on-one evaluation and resolve your ED, Peyronie's, or PE issues. Total Body Therapy of Georgia, 404-777-1911, 404-777-1911, online at stopmyed.com.
Hey, are you paying crazy rates for your health insurance? Call Doug Moore at 770-697-0100. Your health insurance cost shouldn't look like a house payment. Are you tired of having things not covered, like doctor visits, labs, etc.? Doug can help, so call him at 770-697-0100. Doug sells all forms of health insurance. His plans have no deductibles, and you don't have to switch doctors. If you're paying too much for health insurance, Doug can help. He has over 20 years experience. You can go to his website and request a quote. Go to yourchoicehealthplan.net. That's yourchoicehealthplan.net or call his cell phone at 770-697-0100. Doug can make a plan that you will be able to use. Call 770-697-0100 and he can help. Or go to his website to request a quote, yourchoicehealthplan.net, and contact him. Doug says don't fret. Go to yourchoicehealthplan.net and he can bring rates down. 770-697-0100.
You know the old expression, I love it when a plan comes together? Well, with our First Liberty Notes, this has been so true. Hello, I'm Brant Frost, founder of First Liberty Building and Loan. You hear about our family's company all the time right here on the station. For over 30 years, we've been the local lender who said yes when the big banks say no. A couple of months ago, we opened up our First Liberty Notes program to Main Street investors just like you, and the response has been just incredible. Folks from airline pilots to physicians to even pastors are now earning 8 to 13% interest rates while helping to fuel the growth of local small businesses. If you're a qualified investor with a minimum of $25,000, you too could be earning 8 to 13% interest. We'd love to have you join our First Liberty family today. Go to FirstLibertyGA.com and see if our First Liberty Notes are right for you. Go to FirstLibertyGA.com. That's FirstLibertyGA.com.
First Liberty Notes are not obligations of or guaranteed by any financial institution and are not secured by any collateral. They are not FDIC insured or guaranteed by any government agency. You could lose money. SEC accredited investor status must be verified. Securities not offered in any jurisdiction in which it is unlawful.
The Morning Extra, Neil Bortz, and The Kimmer Show are all online for you anytime at thepodcastpark.com. Plus all of Extra's exclusive podcasts like Ben Burnett, Janelle King, and so much more. All at thepodcastpark.com. Presented by Associated Credit Union.
Doug, Rhino, and Los until 10 on the Morning Extra. 9 o'clock hours brought to you by Southern Exteriors, your home exterior solution since 1999. I wish they also did interiors because the interiors I'm working on in my home are not going all that way.
I feel for you.
Yeah, it's painful. It is. It's hurtful. It's painful.
This is one of those, when you watch it on HGTV and they show you like a home redesign that went wrong.
Oh, yes. Oh,
and you got to call in some twin brothers to come help you out.
Yeah, that's where I am now.
I mean, what are they? Why am I suddenly not thinking about their names? I watch so much HGTV.
Hang on. The Property Brothers.
The Scotts. The Scotts, right? That's what I would need. I need a set of twin brothers to come in and come help you with your problem.
Yes, I know. That's what I need too. So I wish they did interiors because that is our current project. We painted the house with them, which went great. We needed to do, the remodeling of the bathrooms in our house, and we're about 59, 60 days in. It was supposed to be done at 30 to 45, and we're halfway through the master bathroom. Still got 2 to go.
I'm going to make some phone calls.
Okay.
And
see
then
if you reach out to the Property Brothers.
There's going to be a knock at your door. It's going to be Jonathan and Drew Scott. And
What's
they're going to
up,
be like, our friend told us you're in need of help.
Yes, we are.
They're going to have a crew of like 10 people behind them, and they won't do anything, but they will do all the, they'll take the videos with you, and they'll show you how they're working, and then Drew will put on like a hammer and show you like how he was doing some work in your house.
Yeah, right.
They'll all get done.
As long as it gets done, that's all I care at this point.
You have to have a sob story, though, to show how much these bathrooms really, truly mean to you.
Right. Mama's supposed to move into our house, but she can't yet until the bathroom is ready. We want to make sure it's safe for her.
How about I don't got a
God, I
place
hear
to
the
bathe
tears
right now?
already.
I mean, that seems sob story enough. I don't have a place to bathe. I mean, that's tough. Nobody wants that. Come to work all stinky and smelly.
I'm just going to tell you, there's people that are dealing with some things in this country. You need a better sob story.
I know.
That's why Mama was going to move in with us.
Yeah.
But it's not safe right now, so Mama can't move in yet, and she's in that trailer.
Mama's living in the trailer.
And we need her help. We need to get her out.
Well, the problem is Mama loves the trailer.
Well, you don't have to tell Jonathan and Drew Scott that Mama loves the trailer and her independence.
Strike that, please. Strike that from the court
Get
record.
your cousin Clarence, and we'll move him in too.
Yeah, Curtis, but yes. Which would be a disaster. God almighty.
I ain't got nowhere to cook meth.
That's right. Right, because the bathroom is torn all to pieces. You could have used the bathtub.
Curtis, why does it smell like a skunk in there?
Meth. That's right. And lots of weed. I bet he has pounds of weed. I bet he has pounds.
I'm just kidding, Curtis. I don't actually think that you're cooking meth ever.
He did go to jail.
Everybody goes to jail, Tug.
I've never gone to jail.
I've never gone to jail.
Exactly, so you can't say everybody.
I had a coworker who asked me about that one time. He talked about how you've never been put in handcuffs. I was like, no. I was like, I've been pulled over.
Yeah, but that's different.
Like speeding and stuff like that.
That's as close as I've been to.
The only time I've ever had a scenario where I was talking to a police officer and I thought I might be in really big trouble. I was 18 years old. We had already driven for 45 minutes. I had to use the restroom. The bars that we went over to were charging, I think it was like a $30 cover to go in. And so I ran down a back alley because I was like, I'm not spending $30 to go use your restroom.
And
Police officer gave me the light. But he asked me, he's like, I go, sir, he saw I was 18. He's like, I was like, we've been driving for 45 minutes. All these bars won't let me in unless I pay a $30 cover. And we were actually waiting to go over here because we're waiting to go at dinner at this all-you-can-eat rib place. And they were packed up too. He was like, all right, just get out of here.
Just get.
Like, thank you. Like, that was the one time I thought,
skedaddle.
We're going to be in trouble here.
Because my friend, we were coming back from a comic club in Chattanooga, and we stop at a gas station. Most of us were not in shape to drive, which is why we weren't. And a friend of mine did the same thing. He went in to the gas station. The lady could tell he was pretty tipsy, beyond tipsy. He's like, you get out of here now. You get out. He's like, I just got to go pee. Just let me go pee. She's like, you go to the side of the building.
Oh, no.
And so he did. And then all of a sudden, blue lights show up.
The lights go.
And he was like, the lady made me. She wouldn't let me go.
She told me I had to leave.
That's exactly right. And they arrested him. We had to go bail him out. And then we're the witnesses. And we went to the little Varnell, Georgia, is where it was. In Varnell, Georgia. And I'm telling you, it was like what are those steel buildings? That's what it was. The city hall there, the courthouse was.
Well, like it's built by the general?
Yes.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. And because it's a tiny little community. And so we go in there and we tell the guy what happened, and the judge dismissed the charges. That's the closest I've been, and I wasn't even arrested. But we told him what happened, kind of like you, and they dismissed the charges. Anyway, something funny happened on Saturday Night Live. They continue to laugh at Joe and Kamala, and this is a version of the Family Feud, and it is pretty darn funny when you hear the answers that are given by I guess it's Maya Rudolph playing Kamala Harris.
Okay, 100 people surveyed, top 6 answers on the board. Name something that you keep in your glove compartment. Oh, VP Harris.
Steve, look. I was raised in a middle-class family, all right?
Oh, here we go.
Okay, my mother raised my sister and me, all right? Yeah. She worked hard and saved up.
Yeah,
And we had a second mother, too.
Okay. Did that mother have a glove compartment?
A small business owner named Miss Shelton.
Okay, we got that. Something that you keep in your glove compartment.
Oh, a Glock, Steve. A big old Glock.
A big old Glock. Oh, snap. Okay, so you strapped like that. All right. Show me the blip, blam, blicky.
Yes, there it is.
How genius. They have Maya Rudolph going through the whole soliloquy.
I know, right?
Why did it take, and maybe it took a while for SNL to get on board with this, we've been joking around about this for months now. We always talk about when we throw in. Listen, I was raised in a middle class family. I mean, it's on my Twitter bio for the last several weeks.
And it's everywhere. But Saturday Night Live is so afraid of offending the Democrat masterminds that they'll be not in good standing, which I know you can relate to, Los. You know, the fact that they are so afraid of that. And now all of a sudden there seems to be a crack in the dam and they feel like that all of a sudden they can do this.
They recognize the opportunity.
Yeah, they see it's not because they're brave, because if they would have been, this would have been years ago. They would have been doing it with Joe Biden years ago when we knew he had freaking dementia and nobody would address it.
At one point during the 80s, you had, and this was, we're actually, take it back, this is closer into the 70s, when they were doing Gerald Ford.
Yeah.
He was always falling down.
Yes.
Okay, this would have been perfect for Joe Biden.
Of course, but they were afraid to upset the apple cart. That'll do it for us. Going to turn this thing over to the Glenn Beck program. After that, Clay and Buck and the local afternoon show with the Kimmer, Pete, and Flounder here on Extra 106.3. So for Front Office Lows, for Captain Goey, Virgin River, our board op, my name is Tug. Y'all come back now, you hear?
Hey, it's Flounder, and the Kimmer Show is live every afternoon from 3 to 6 p.m.
Free speech is like a pressure cooker and the valves on the pressure cooker. If you start shutting off all the places that the valves are, guess what happened?
Well, that's why we have the other amendment, like the second one, so we can keep our guns. I mean, seriously, you know, that's what they do when they